The flower girl stares at the plant and blurts, "Is this really magic grass?" While Harris only grins, finally clocking the power. After all, his plant master power usually only lets him size up basic stuff like this. Harris can't stop thinking about how he poured his whole life into turning that mono-filled grass into something that could finally become real medicine. Harris knows that with his research and his crew behind him, he can finally pull off the impossible and save the world. Then the dream shatters. Bam! Back at the Reynard Sanctuary in the royal capital, Harris jolts awake, utterly lost and rattled, like he has no idea how he got there. His boss is raging in his face, yelling that he's fired him 1,000 times over. Harris just stands there, totally frozen and clueless. He's still trying to digest the news, then the boss drops the truth. Their job is all healing magic, not pointless herb research, and he's done swallowing it. Harris snaps back, claiming this research was his father's dream and insisting it could save the whole kingdom, since healers are trapped in the capital, but then everything slams to a halt. But the boss slams the brakes on him, yells at Harris to shut up, laughs at the whole idea of helping poor people. Dolence Renard just locks eyes with Harris, then coldly asks if he really needs to be told why he's getting kicked out for acting. He says it's the most obvious truth ever, straight up admitting it's all about the money, and snapping that he hated how the guy before him ran things, because those old methods were way too soft. Dolence flashes this unsettling grin while bragging that they're the only rich people rich patients can come to for healing magic. He starts spiraling, warning them that if Harris really turns out a medicine everyone can use, their easy money is about to vanish for good. Harris stood there, fists trembling, realizing this whole place was a total trash fire. And if he kept staying, he'd never finish his real work. So he finally breaks, slams his ID card onto the desk, and tells Dolence he's done with the sanctuary for good, But the boss isn't finished being a jerk. He lights up a cigar, waves Harris off, and warns him to get lost before his research lab gets burned to the ground. Harris can't believe his ears. He demands to know if the guy's really serious, and without another second to lose, he blasts out the door to make sure his stuff is still there. By the time he finally arrives, the research shack is already engulfed in flames. He freezes in pure disbelief, just staring as every bit of his hard work turns to ash. While Harris stares into the flames, a stranger strolls up and drops, like it's nothing, that he's late, then walks off, leaving Harris stranded with no choice but to face the mess. The guys who lit the fire just stand there, roaring with laughter, bragging that it feels awesome to see the shack go up since it cuts straight into their profits, and one of them even slings insults at Harris, calling him a weed, claiming the flames are the director's parting gift. And that makes it crystal clear that they're soaking up every second of this, and Harris is absolutely losing it, cursing under his breath as the goons keep yelling for him to learn his place. But he's not just going to stand there, because while the guys howl that Harris is officially banned from the royal capital, he spins his back on them and rockets straight into the roaring flames. Heat slams him the second he hits the fire, and inside everything's coming undone. Wood is cracking and crashing all around him, and Harris throws up his arms to shield his face just so he can keep pushing through the choking smoke. He can't stop now. Not when he realizes his father's entire life's work is trapped right in the middle of this disaster. He flashes back to those days in the lab with his dad, and the idea of losing that legacy crushes him. Hard, he sees a notebook bursts into flames as he lunges for it, gripped by that rush of hope, like they were finally inches away from making the research truly work for people. Then his eyes snap to something else. Something even more important is hiding in the corner. He shoves himself deeper into the blazing room, and even though the fire is racing like it's hunting him down, and he keeps yelling to himself that he has to grab that one specific item before the whole place collapses, he lunges for the shelf and thrusts his hand in and snatches a little wooden box inside. A strange glowing seed sits there, untouched and perfectly intact. He exhales in relief, but the roof is buckling. And Chris grips the box like it's his last breath and bolts for the exit, because he has to save it no matter what, even if the whole building is seconds away from trapping him under rubble. Harris throws his arm up to block the scorching heat, clutches the book like it's his life. As the flames slam closer, he can barely breathe. Then he hits the door like a rocket, wondering if this is where he finally breaks. He glances back one last time and sees everyone else is already done. And just like that, the whole lab breaks, collapses into a roaring pile of burning wood, and vanishes in thick smoke. Harris just stands there, frozen, staring at the wreckage like his whole life got burned to the ground right before his eyes. He stares at the ruins with hollow eyes, and the years of research slam into his mind every memory he shared with his teacher right up until all his pride, every dream, and every last spark of hope are crushed gone in an instant. So he snaps his head away from the mess and he turns his back on the capital, convinced the whole world has run out of room for him. A searing pain rips through his arm, and he grimaces as the fire's burns finally start to sting, then it hits him. He's already slipped out of the royal capital, and he can't even remember how he made it this far. But that sharp pain in his arm is doing more than hurting. It's snapping his thoughts into focus. He whips his gaze around, scanning the plants nearby, desperate to track down some magic herbs and heal the wound before it spirals out of control. Harris snaps his special eyes open and sweeps across the plants, and there it is, magic current surging through everything he spots, vitality grass to heal himself and blue plum grass packed with water mana, just the exact power he's been hunting for. To get to work. He's had this plant master power forever since he can remember, and it lets him spot the hidden energy inside every single leaf. He snatches the 2 herbs, already knowing that with these, he can slam in a quick fix, so he starts by hacking up the vitality grass. Because in his mind, these magic plants are nothing but regular weeds until you learn how to wield them. He tiptoes through each next step, then wraps the chopped scraps in a blue dew leaf, because this is the only way to turn raw plants into something actually useful. Then, once it's ready, he slaps the wrap onto his burned arm, shoves his own magic into it, and the mixture snaps into real magic medicine straight against his skin, it made him snap back to the real reason he started. He wanted his tech cheap and easy to track down, so even the poorest families could finally get help, but he's just standing there by himself, staring into the void, thinking about all the people out there who used to be just like him, folks, with zero chance of paying for a real healer the moment they get sick or hurt. He lets out a tiny laugh because his arm is already totally fine. Turns out the potion worked flawlessly, just like Master Gustav drilled into him. And the moment he thinks about this whole new world of medicine he wants to build, he makes a promise that drives him forward. He clenched his fist until his knuckles went paper white, so close to pulling it off that the dream felt like it was already in his grasp. Everything crumbled at once, so he ends up out in the middle of nowhere, staring the truth in the face. His life in the capital is over, and he'll never run his research there again. Harris drops to the ground, studies his map, and realizes he can't just disappear. He has to check on the patients he's been treating, the ones who couldn't make it to the capital. So he refuses to leave them hanging because lives are on the line, and he hatches a plan to hit Risara's place first. It's a brutal, long walk, but after pushing through it all, he finally reaches the Entrus. A state perched on the kingdom's edge then rushes in to find Lord Bailey and Lady Risara, blurts out a quick apology for showing up out of nowhere. But the couple lights up when he shows up. Bailey even tells him he's welcome anytime. Rosara, though, clocks a shift in his mood, presses him and asks if something went down back at the sanctuary, which kicks off everything that lands Harris at her bedside. And at last he's about to spill the truth about how he got fired. He kicks things off with "actually" and lays out the whole mess ball. Bailey is completely stunned, calling it pure stupidity to boot a talent like Harris, and you can tell he's furious on Harris's behalf. But But Harris knows if he keeps coming back here for official treatments, Dolan's gonna lock onto this family too, because the Entrus family are the nobles running this whole area. Harris realizes that if he stays, this territory and the sanctuary are going to crumble into nothing. And he knows Bailey has to protect their people as a lord, so he refuses to let that guy get dragged into his chaos, so right then and there, he vows to find a way to sneak Lady Risara her medicine, no one watching. And he tells himself this public bond has to snap right here, because safety comes first, and this is the only shield from the damage headed straight for them. Bailey locks eyes with Harris and tells him straight up he still hasn't repaid the debt he owes. Harris gets blindsided, but Risara only smiles and says she could never forget what he did because she remembers the moment every healer quit on her. Yet Harris kept fighting with everything he had. He'd burned through the night, grinding himself to the bone just to get her medicine finished. And she leans in and tells him, flat out, that both he and his research are absolutely extraordinary. Bailey stands up strong and declares the whole world has to finally see just how great Harris really is. Rosara stares at him with pure kindness, telling him she just knows he'll be okay because she's seen his hard work up close and she swears it's going to pay off. And she tries to tell her husband something, but Bailey barges in and snaps that the decision's already been made. He shoots his hand out and formally ushers Harris into the Entrus family on the spot. Harris just stands there, eyes brimming, completely stunned that this is even happening. Bailey tells Harris to stop stressing over his messy past with the sanctuary because he's already got a rock-solid plan locked in. And he tells Harris to pack up and move to Delos village because the water and soil there are perfect for growing top-tier magic herbs. As he strides out of the room, Bailey leans in and tells Harris to let him talk to every place they've been hitting lately. So Risara glances over and says she's finally thrilled she can help. Then she calls out Harris's name. She grabs his hand and tells him she's always relied on his strength, and she still does. But now it's their turn to stand strong for him. Rosara whispers her thanks from the bed, and Harris can only choke out a shaky "thank you" back before he crumples in tears, clutching his shirt like it's the only thing holding him together, as everything they've done finally lands and crushes him. A little later, right by the estate's main gates, a carriage is waiting and ready to whisk Harris off to his brand new home. Bailey yells after him, blasting the message into the air, no matter what hits. They've got his back always. And that's when Harris grins as he shouts back, "Thanks to you," because he's officially got a brand new start about to begin. Bailey watched the carriage shrink into the distance, then clenched his thoughts and told himself, Harris has to push through because the world desperately needs people like him. Then he digs into the home visit list Harris left behind, and as he reads the names, panic makes sweat pour off him. Realizing a crew of patients like this is headed into the territory, and things are about to go absolutely wild. The story cuts to Delos village in the kingdom of Noel, and right as the carriage rolls to a stop, it lands in a peaceful pocket of windmills and little houses. But the second Harris glances out the window, a hulking stranger steps right up and tells him he doesn't recognize a single inch of his face. It's the village chief, Russell, and he can't believe anyone would come all the way to this backwater. Then he leans in and demands to know who Harris is. Harris hops out, greets the chief with perfect manners, and admits he'd been dying to move into the village for good, which totally surprises Russell. He calls him a weirdo, but then he can't help warming up and welcoming him into the community, right up until he leans in for a closer look at Harris's outfit, freezes mid-sentence and blurts out, "Wait, are you really a healer?" Suddenly, the chief's face twisted with rage. He screams that healers have always abandoned folks like them to die. Russell barrels straight into Harris's face, screaming that he's got a lot of nerve for showing up there. And then he demands to know right then and there if Harris is actually a healer. Right then, a woman barrels in, sobbing her heart out, begging Harris to save her daughter and swearing she'll pay anything for the rest of her life. Harris instantly nods in agreement and rushes in to help, even as Russell scrambles to shut him down and keep him out. He glances at the kid's blazing fever and those nasty spots and instantly knows this is red lizard disease in full disaster mode, already way past the point where it should have been stopped. And when the mom panics and asks if she'll be okay, Harris reassures her, "Don't worry, we can still get to her in time." He knows regular healing magic can't cut it, so he dives into his bag, grabs the ingredients, and starts crafting a special medicine. He hurriedly whipped powdered snakehead grass together with a splash of that boiled jinsetsu grass liquid, then packed the whole mix tight inside Suzuka leaves. The villagers huddle in confusion as Harris rolls up his sleeves and pumps his own mana into the mixture, trying to kick the cure into life. Потім, коли все нарешті готово, він нахиляється і лагідно каже маленькій дівчинці випити все. A blazing light floods the girl as her healing finally takes hold. And then she snaps her eyes open, crying out for her mom while everyone watches, breathing easier. The mother yanks her daughter into a crushing hug, sobbing tears of pure happiness, while Harris stands off to the side with a proud, shining smile. She can't stop crying, mumbling "thank goodness" over and over, completely stunned that her little girl is finally safe. The kid yanks her hands up in triumph, yelling that it's totally amazing and the pain is gone. For real. Completely gone. So when the mom thanks him again, Harris shrugs it off like it's no big deal, says it's just his job, and all he wants is to see her doing better. Then he whips around to the village chief and tells Russell, "Don't stress, I'm not asking you to pay me for this." While Russell just stands there in pure shock, Harris blurts out the truth. He's not a healer at all. He's a magic herbalist. He points them to the plants and tells them the medicine came from a secret blend ordinary magic herbs, mixed just right. And he goes totally feral with determination, swearing he'll forge this medicine into something like magic so poor people can stop dying. Then he begs to stay in the village and keep researching. He locks eyes with Russell and pleads for one chance, showing him, right there, just how deadly serious he really is. Russell drops his head and admits Harris isn't like those greedy healers, then practically apologizes on the spot for how much of a jerk he'd been earlier. The little girl beams from ear to ear and screams for Harris to get good luck, while her mom just stands there, watching every second. While Russell tells him he's more than welcome, he officially welcomes Harris the magic herbalist right into Delos village. Harris shoots a handshake with the chief and blurts out his thanks like he can finally feel the tide turning. He kept staring at how that academy crushed his progress, like nothing he did ever mattered until now, when he's finally surrounded by people who can see his real worth. He jabs his fist into the air, certain he can turn his dreams into reality here, while the villagers stare in awe. Later that same day, in a whole new town, a bird swoops over flashy buildings with a letter clenched in its beak, and it drops right beside a merchant who can't believe his luck, because getting a message from Lord Bailey like this is basically unheard of. The merchant finally cracks open the letter to get the scoop on the big news, and that message goes out to every peer. Harris is out of the sanctuary, but the Ontruz family is stepping in, backing him with everything they've got. Rome. Stockwell's eyes went wide as she read it, utter disbelief on her face, because Harris really got booted from the sanctuary. News about Harris rockets across the land, and Jurek, the top-tier adventurer, shouts that he's in and ready to help. While Victoria Intres is thrown off balance, she blurts out if her own family is really backing him with everything they've got. Makti, the mage, can't stop spiraling. He starts asking himself if Harris is officially a free agent now, and even Emma Spadia, an elite noble lady with clout to spare, has already decided that Master Gustav's apprentice is absolutely worth recruiting. Back at the estate, Lady Risara clocks her staff scrambling as they spread the news, and when she realizes Harris's name is about to go viral, below, her focus hardens fast. Finally, he believed the whole world would see him for what he truly was, a top-tier magic herb pharmacist. Back in the village, Russell and the others throw open the doors for Harris, and things finally feel like they're going right. But that mysterious seed sitting nearby might be the real key to everything. Harris is genuinely thrilled to start fresh, even while Russell feels awful for dragging a royal capital guy into this tiny little town. They brag that they don't do fancy, just a busted little shack sitting on the edge of the village, and Harris is still grinning because it means one thing: rain can't get him. He grins at the village below, already knowing this is the very spot where his brand new life as a magic herbalist is about to explode. Russell slows at a tree, grabs Harris's attention, and declares they've finally arrived at the spot. As Harris stares at that battered old shack, he can't shake the thought: could this be where his brand new life actually begins? Russell glares at the building and blurts out an apology, admitting he never saw the place spiral into this wreck, while Harris just stands there, silently taking the whole mess in. But Russell snaps into action, tells him not to sink into that gloom, and promises he'll help him get the house fixed up. Harris drops to his knees, scoops up a fistful of dirt, and blurts out that he's just grateful because the forest and the river are right there. His heart pounds as he stares at the soil, because it feels like his dream is about to finally come true. The chief's curiosity sparks, and he leans in, asking Harris, "So how do you even grow magic herbs in the first place?" So Harris breaks it down. It's basically the same deal as growing regular veggies, just with tilled dirt, except mana and magic energy run the whole show. Russell hears that and snaps his tool tight, blurting out, "Got it now!" Like that settles everything. He's absolutely fired up, and he snaps at Harris, "Come on, let's move, time to start farming." Russell tilts his head toward the trees and blurts out that he wants to see it too. The kind of world where Harris's dream is finally real. He lays a hand on Harris's shoulder and asks if he means a place where even the poor can be saved. And Harris fires back that it'd be the best thing ever. The two of them go absolutely feral with excitement and shout like, "Let's make it happen." Harris shoots the chief a grateful nod, and you can feel the luck in his bones, because with Rosara and Lord Bailey looking out for him, he knows he's got the right people watching his back. He grabs a breath, eyes locked in, and realizes this place and that one special item he snatched from his dad's old research hut is exactly what he needs. After all that grueling work, they finally stare at the finished farm rows, and Harris explodes, shouting that they made it. They actually pulled it off. They just stand face to face, grinning like they're sharing the same secret. Then Harris yanks out a tiny box, tells them it's go time, and shuts down any more delays, no more waiting. Russell peeks inside and freezes at the weird logic, but Harris just smirks and asks if it all looks like seeds to him. They're real, and yeah, they're the rare, insanely special kind. Harris stares at the special seeds, wondering why his dad left them behind. He's sure they're supposed to be Ron seeds, but he has no idea what's coming next. Suddenly the ground bursts into glowing light, and Russell screams as the dirt itself detonates with pure brightness right in front of them. Vines and flowers shoot up at insane speeds, twisting together until they form a human shape, and then, right in the middle of the garden, a tiny girl with rose-petal hair appears, and Harris just freezes with his mouth hanging open, unable to move while a little girl starts to tip over, and Harris snaps his arm out and catches her on time, making sure she's okay. He locks eyes on her, trying to make his brain accept that this kid is an absolute wrong. Nothing about her screams, "Monster," not even close, and then she lunges into his arms and blurts, "Papa!" a massive grin lighting up her face. Russell hangs back, totally bewildered, and keeps repeating "Papa" like he can't process what he's just heard. Harris yanks the girl back to arm's length, tells her to hang on for a second, and says, loud and clear, that he is not her dad. She grins even wider and says, "Since I was born from your magic, you're my papa no matter what." Russell gapes at the kid in pure shock. Like, how the heck does something like this just burst from a seed? Harris scrambles to explain she's basically an all-round magical plant familiar. But even he can't quite hide that he's still totally clueless about what's going on. He sees the little girl locked onto that old, busted shack in the distance, so he asks if she's freaking out about it. He squints at the place and admits, yeah, calling this a house is a stretch, because it's basically falling apart and screaming for a ton of repairs. So then, The girl suddenly wrenches out of his arms, screams that she'll handle it herself, and Harris just freezes, blinking and fumbling out confused sounds as the moment turns into a disaster while, as she sprints straight for the ruins, he watches her vanish. Stunned, how is a kid that small even supposed to fix a whole building by? All alone, she storms up to the shack and starts talking to it like it can hear her. She admits she knows it crumbled because it had nobody living inside, because it was lonely, and she stares at the worn wood with a grim look, then tells the building straight up, "I'm going to share my power with you now." But before she can finish, she tells the house to get well soon, and boom, an enormous wave of light and glittery sparkles surges in and wraps around the whole. Her magic wakes the old rotting wood upboards shift, twist, and start glowing from within. Harris and Russell are left totally stunned. Russell yells that the place looks fresh as ever, then immediately asks if that kid was really just chatting with a shed. The flower girl plunges her hand into Harris's belt pouch and yanks out a fistful of seeds, then tells him they've got to free the little ones too. Harris watches her extend those seeds and he blurts out, "Wait, are those really magic grass seeds?" And she just grins, like it's obvious. Then he hurls them skyward and orders everyone to wake up. Boom! A colossal garden of flowers and plants erupts into life. Leaving both guys frozen in total shock, Russell blurts that it's unbelievable and that he always knew she was special, while Harris just can't stop thinking, because this is absolutely not normal. The little girl giggles, tilts her head back at Harris, and fires off, "So am I amazing." He ruffles her hair with a quick pat on the head and tells her, loud and sure, that she's absolutely amazing. Russell can't shake the thought that her power is absolutely unhinged, yet she still looks like just a normal little girl while he's stuck in the back, drained to the bone. The village chief basically tells Harris, "Be grateful you get a cute daughter, so smile." And right on cue, the girl erupts, yelling, "Papa, Harris!" Harris instantly gets flustered and admits that being called Papa feels painfully embarrassing. So he asks her to ditch the nickname and just call him by his name. She rockets a high five into the air and cheers out a super cute version of his name. And he just beams back, telling her it's nice to meet her too. Harris stares at the girl, stunned that she looks like a normal kid, even with those wild powers, so he decides he's going to give her a cute name. Russell stares at her and blurts that the way she repairs houses and grows plants makes her feel like a living forest goddess. Then Harris's mind goes into overdrive. The village chief yanks out an ancient amulet and then drops a bombshell. There's an old legend, the kind folks here whisper about. They say a village guardian named Lela Shaldai, an ancient forest god, somehow turned a dead wasteland into a living home, raising houses and coaxing crops from the earth. Harris hears the story, then mouths Lelushaldite under his breath, hammering it into something shorter like Lelusha. He leans out at the trees and asks the girl how Lisha feels to her, testing the name like it might click into place. She stares up at him with wide, shining eyes as he drops the truth, since they're borrowing it from a goddess. Her name is officially about to. She bursts into cheers, spins and dances around like she's on fire, yelling her new name at the top of her lungs, "I'm Lisha now." Russell just stands there in the background watching her celebrate and goes, "Man, it's like she genuinely loves this, so yeah, the name totally fits." Harris thrusts his hand out, tells Lisha he can't wait to team up with her starting right now. Lisha tilts her head up at Harris, flashes him a massive grin, and gushes that it's great to meet him, then calls him Harishu on the spot, because she's officially a girl born from a magic herb now. Night drops over the village, and boom, an enormous party ignites under the moon as maids sprint around with trays piled high with drinks for everyone. Russell jumps up to deliver a proper speech, introduces the magic herbalist Harris and his brand new familiar, Lisha, to the whole village. Then, some guy in the crowd shouts for him to hurry up and wrap it, because this is dragging on way too long. The chief just shrugs and laughs along, and when he nods, the whole village erupts in one huge cheer, welcoming Harris and Lisha into their home. Everyone lifts their beer barrels at once, roars out cheers, and downs them hard to kick off the celebration. The little girl Harris saved rushes up with a plate of food, looking perfectly healthy, and tells him she's feeling all better now. Harris flashes her a warm smile, tells her he's relieved she's doing fine, and urges her to come back anytime she starts feeling off again. The kid's face lights up at that until she spots a tiny flower girl and blurts out to Harris, "Wait, is this the Leisha I've been hearing about?" Harris tells Leisha it's fine and begs her to be a real good friend, while Leisha hangs back, shy as ever, and nervously asks the girl to be kind. The girl beams, says it's nice to meet her, then snatches Leisha's hand and yanks her off to hunt for cake, while Harris just stands there, staring as they disappear. Harris watched Leisha stroll off with the girl, and he grinned through the relief cake, and all because she'd already been welcomed by everyone in the village. Russell leans in with a huge grin, asking Harris if he's having a blast, while some guy in the back yells about how fast they're going through the booze. Harris grins and says he's having the time of his life because the food and drinks are unreal. Then, Russell can't help bragging that their local booze is so famous it's even known in the capital. For a heartbeat, the chief straightens up and fires the question, why on earth would the Holy Institute dump a top-tier herbologist like him? Harris lets out this awkward chuckle, then blurts that he'd love for the old director to share the same opinion while he stews in the memory of the guy who kicked him out. Russell snaps that arrogant folks end up wrecking their own lives sooner or later, so staying truthful just like Harris is doing is the smartest way to live. Harris takes another drink, staring into the glass as he thinks, sure, these people are a little rough around the edges, but deep down, every single one of them has a solid heart. Staring out at the party lights and the people roaring under the moon, Harris finally realizes he's genuinely glad he chose to come to this village. After the party drags on all night, the sun finally claws its way over the rooftops as morning creeps in, right into. It's a brutally rough morning. Everyone's sprawled and knocked out cold on the tables, and Harris. He's slumped over a barrel, dead to the world. Harris slumps on the bench outside, groaning that he totally overdid it with the drinks, yet he can't help thinking, man, it's been ages since a party felt this amazing. Leisha slides over and asks if he's okay, and Harris can barely choke out, "I'm fine," while he's bent over the table like he's holding on by a thread. He realizes he's got the perfect cure for this hangover, and he tells Leisha he even grew the magic herbs yesterday. Spring, cooling herbs mixed with heat herbs, so he can brew a quick fix right now. After they pour the herbal mix into a pair of mugs, the two of them gulp it down together. Harris instantly perked up, pumped his fist, and yelled that with the fog finally gone, he feels way better now. He shoots Leisha a quick thank you, and she throws up a proud pose claiming he can always count on her whenever he needs backup like this. Harris decides to spread the good stuff, tells everyone to take a swing at it, and then, right as the dust settles, a brutally hungover Russell stumbles in and demands, "So what the hell are you even drinking?" The instant that tea hits Russell's system, his eyes fly wide open as the medicine kicks in. The villagers start spilling it like a legend, this wild, incredible sensation, like sprinting through a seaside meadow, or like a warm spring breeze swoops in and blows right through their bodies. Russell blinks in disbelief as that nasty heartburn he had vanishes for good, and the whole crew rushes to thank Harris and Leisha for rescuing them from a brutal morning. Harris and Leisha steal a calm moment together, both beaming at how the morning played out, and just like, as everyone finishes their tea, they're stunned. This magic medicine doesn't just cure real sickness, it wipes out a hangover just as hard, and nobody can wrap their heads around it. Russell yells that he can finally drink his fill without a single worry, even as Harris begs him to slow down. Then a villager crashes in, shouting that a massive emergency just exploded. The guy's gasping for air as he shouts that a caravan of crested carriages just rolled into the village, and Russell's left totally baffled like, "Wait, who's coming?" The messenger scratches a symbol in the air, sketching that teardrop frame with scales inside, and he's practically sure it's the exact one he saw. Harris clocks it instantly and demands, "Those from the Stockwell Company. but Russell shoots him down, saying he must have misread it because no way, there's just no chance a giant name like that would ever stoop to bothering a backwater village like theirs. Turns out it really is the Stockwell Company, one of the world's biggest trading giants, and they never step off the usual trail. But the carriage line is already waiting right out front, and the driver yells that they've finally made it to Delos village. A voice from inside the carriage shot out a quick thank you, and the coachman beamed, telling them they handled that grueling long trip like pros. Rome leans out of the lead carriage and stares at the peaceful village below. She can't wrap her head around the fact that Harris is really staying somewhere this quiet. As the head of the world-famous Stockwell Trading Company, Rome is absolutely sure this is the turning point, because their brand new medicine is finally about to hit the global market. The doors blast open, and a massive wave of suited staff floods out because the legendary 88 Suit Legion is landing right in the heart of the village with a full-on grand entrance. Russell swears the carriages are 100 from the Stockwell Company, but Harris can't wrap his head around it. Why would they haul in a crowd that enormous? The girl hops down from the carriage, and Harris finally starts putting the pieces together. He asks if she's really Rome. The second her eyes lock on him, her whole face lights up, and she bursts out his name like she's been waiting for him forever. She doesn't even wait for the others. She rockets off toward them, and the guys just stand there, stunned, watching her sprint like she's got a mission. She closes the distance in a heartbeat, snatches Harris's hands right away, and blurts out how thrilled she is to finally be standing face to face again. Harris looks completely blindsided by the kid's sudden surge of energy, then stumbles through an awkward question, who is he anyway? Rome finally takes a breath, bows with a quick apology, and admits he's so late that he needs a real introduction. Loam kicks off her pitch to Harris, promising she can get him anything from basic breakfast bread all the way up to literal dragon nail clippers. Every suited worker in the crew freezes behind her, perfectly still, eyes locked on her like they'll obey her the second she gives the word. She steps forward and introduces herself as the Stockwell Trading Company's new second-generation head, the best merchant alive today. Then it hits her. Maybe she moved way too fast, sending a message bird ahead, yet her carriage still beat it to the punch. Right there, the tiny bird hops onto her finger, hiccuping midair, while Russell barrels on like the whole village is stuck in a massive 3-day hangover. Loam spun around, praising the crystal-clear air and water, and said, "That's exactly why the local vintage wine tastes so unreal." She offers to spread the drink through the whole place, but Russell snaps back instantly, claiming the recipe is a village secret. Russell can't believe how much she knows about that backwater town, so he presses her, "Who are you really?" And the name Stockwell hits the air like a bombshell. Turns out it's the biggest guild in the whole kingdom, running the market on every treasure and piece of gear you can possibly imagine. Kobe built this entire empire from the ground up in just one generation, and now his 17-year-old kid is taking the wheel and running the show. Harris keeps the introductions rolling, telling everyone Rome's been training since he was a kid, and it turns out Rome's kid-level logic beats even his father's, pushing him into the rare spot as a top-tier merchant all on his own, and which Russell gets hit with a total shock as the chief stares at Rome and flat out says it can't be true because the kid looks exactly like a girl. Rome just shrugs it off, rubs the back of his head, and says, "Bro, people make that mistake all the time." Harris leans in and doubles down, insisting that no matter how he looks, Rome is a full-on boy 100%. The second Russell and the other village guys hear the truth, their minds snap like rubber bands. They lose it completely, utterly unable to make sense of what they're hearing. Even with that cute face and those flowery vibes, it's crystal clear Rome's Stockwell is 100 a guy. Still shaken by the mess, Harris powers through and tells everyone, "I'm just relieved Rome is doing great these days." It was massive back when he was a patient. The Holy Institute had straight up abandoned Rome, tossing him aside like he was dead meat until, just when it looked hopeless, Harris rolled in with his special magic herbs, and boom, Rome lit up with smiles, with everyone thanking Harris for saving his life and his health. While everyone else chats, Lisha slips off to the side and just watches the whole thing unfold in total silence. Rome drops to a knee to meet Lisha eye to eye, flashes a friendly smile, and asks her name. Lisha lights up, tells him her name, and asks what brought him by then. Rome drops the truth. He's here for a visit with Harris. Harris is totally stunned he can't even process it. Rome just stormed in with a whole crew from the guild, and Harris blurts, "Wait, what's happening?" Rome calls him out and tells him to stop pretending, saying the second he heard Harris got fired, the guy hauled himself over here at full speed. The kid launches into a furious rant, ripping Harris apart for being wildly careless with his own safety. Rome leans in and goes, "Now that Harris is finally out of the Holy Institute, his herb research can actually rewrite the world." And then he starts and gives Harris got hit with a quick wink like, "We're all in. We want to back your research, and we're ready to support you." It's not some casual favor. Rome pats the supplies like they're worth gold, then makes it crystal clear they're striking a real merchant-style business deal. He whips back toward Harris and demands one last time if they can finally talk about those magic herbs. Russell jumps in too, saying he's curious, and the little girl shoots her hand up and yells that she refuses to get left behind. Harris lifts a tiny weed that looks totally ordinary, nodding to the group like, "See, nothing special, just a normal plant." And then they spill the truth. Magic grass isn't some mythical treasure at all. It's just an ordinary weed, the kind that grows anywhere. The real secret is in the plant. It's engineered to gulp mana straight from the air and stash every type it can absorb. But most of the time, that power just evaporates into nothing, unless you're a top-tier mage who can actually cling to it and keep it from slipping away. But that weed flips everything, because the mana locked inside that magic grass stays rock steady, and it's way easier to control. Victoria slowly lifts her cup, takes a deep sip, and keeps her eyes on the ceiling as she weighs everything in her head and she gets it. It's like trying to lug water in your fists. You can't grab it, but the plant acts like a cup, letting you pour that power around. Harris can't help it. He's impressed and tells her she's sharp, because if you blend these herbs just right, they'll heal anyone, even without a single drop of magic. He lifts the smashed-up mixture like it's treasure, swears it's a magic herb potion, and Russell stares at the materials in stunned silence, then blurts, "So this is what Harris has been cooking for all these years." And the guy just calmly nods like it's nothing. Loam nods along, and Harris leans in sure. His appraisal skills can show him exactly what the plants are doing, even if the plan sounds crazy. Victoria watches him still fumble his way through the right mix, realizing he's just trying every single combination like it's some kind of hellish experiment you'd never survive sitting through. She's completely stunned that these plain, ordinary weeds can be turned into real medicine like this. The group decides to roll out, and Harris practically explodes with energy, telling everyone to go check the fields together. The four of them sprint to the garden fence, pressing in to see how the progress is coming along. Victoria can't believe how fast everything's exploding, especially since Harris only just barely made it to the village a short time ago. Harris flashes a grin, ruffles Lisha's head, and tells the whole crowd her crazy fast growth is all because of her power, while Lisha, smug as ever, brags that she's the best. He can't help but admit it when he reaches into the bag of seeds. He's genuinely shocked it's working this well, and he strides over to Lisha, grinning, and tells her it's time to wake up these kids too. She shoots him a quick salute, then jumps straight into action. Victoria just stares as he walks off, baffled and like, what the heck does he mean by waking up a bunch of plants? Lesha rockets into the air with a fierce shout, flexing her moves in the garden while Harris and the others stare in awe. Victoria stared at the thriving plants and knew at once Lisha's power was on their side. Harris's research was about to rocket ahead faster than ever. She tells them they'll finally be able to brew every kind of magical elixir stuff that can save patients who are usually written off as incurable. And then some. And the best part is, once they crack the process, they can brew that medicine even if the maker has zero mana and no talent at all. Harris nods like, "Yeah, this is it. This is exactly what I and my dad, Master Gustav, have always been chasing." Loam jumps in and says that with tech this flexible, the guild can crank out and ship healing support at full scale, so magic healing won't be the only answer anymore. So yeah, this means the Holy Temple is about to lose its stranglehold on healing, and their entire reign of absolute power is about to come crashing down. Victoria stands frozen in silence, and it hits her. At last, change is happening all around her, right there, right now. The whole crew huddles in the field, staring at those plants like they're the key to a brand new future for everyone. So Victoria snaps into action, saying the Stockwell Company is ready to back Harris's herbal research, no delays, no doubts. Harris tells them this is even better than he ever dared to dream. Then he hits them with the real question. Are they truly sure? Because teaming up with him means their bond with the Holy Academy is over for good. Victoria doesn't even blink. She says she figured this would happen, and she's totally okay with walking away from them. Harris reels back to the day they threw him out and torched every scrap of his research, leaving him with zero, only his own memory and hard-earned experience to rebuild from nothing. Victoria is fuming, saying the Academy doesn't just ignore the magic potion's potential. They went out of their way to sabotage him in some seriously messed up fashion. Loam jumps in, saying the temple's ego and the way they've been calling the shots has finally shoved their guild right to the brink. And he flat out says business is supposed to run on trust, something they can't possibly count on from the Holy Temple anymore. Victoria locks eyes with Harris and tells him she trusts him because he's the one who saved her life, and she can't stop admiring that he still risks everything to save others, even after they torched his work to ashes. Village Chief Russell clocks what's happening and snaps to the truth. This isn't only about the money for Victoria. She's not some outsider anymore. She's been fully conquered by Harris. Victoria clenches her crest, swearing she'll stand by Harris through every step of who he is and every cut she makes as a merchant. She breaks it down. Stockwell's philosophy is business that lifts the seller, the buyer, and society, keeping everything fair, balanced, and right for everyone. Victoria finally cracks open about her past, revealing Harris went against the Holy Academy's every rule just to save her life. So she's been grinding her merchant skills non-stop, leveling up like crazy, all to repay him. She's sure that if they fuse his top-tier research with her family's massive bankroll, they'll finally crack the code, and magic potions will sweep in and take over the world. She shoots her hand out toward him, glowing like a spotlight, and tells him they're meant to change the world together. Harris stares out at the horizon, stunned that he's literally following the same path as the one he can't stop thinking about. Then it hits him this time. He can save way more lives, because he's finally teamed up with the very same boy he saved back then. So he thrusts his hand out and tells her, loud and clear, that he's 100 in on this deal. They seal the partnership with a handshake, and Harris leans in, telling her he's counting on her to make this happen for real. A few days slip by, and then boom, the peaceful village erupts in noise as a massive wooden frame for the new building shoots up from the ground. Village Chief Russell can barely breathe. He's staring in stunned disbelief as he watches a branch of the world-famous Stockwell Company rise right in a town like theirs. Victoria's right beside him, beaming as she thanks the village for letting them plant their new headquarters for the Magic Herb Division. Seeing all that progress has Harris fired up, and he turns to the group asking if it's time for them to start expanding their own business operations too. Just as Chief Russell is breaking down herb production, a villager barges in mid-sentence and screams that a massive emergency has erupted. The chief whips around, eyes blazing with pure annoyance, and snaps, "What on earth is happening now?" He gulped air, caught his breath, and told them straight up the group's outgathered materials just got smashed by a massive monster. Harris and the others are stunned, and Harris grabs him like, "Wait, say it again, what just happened at—" Deep in the woods, a hulking, muscular orc erupts with a vicious roar and swings its massive club wild through the trees. One worker barely gets out of the way before that monstrous weapon slams into the dirt inches from his boots. His buddy rushes over to check on him, and he just sits there, stunned, head bloodied from the blow. They drag him off, yelling for everyone to scatter while secretly praying Harris can seal up his wounds once they're back. The guys suddenly clock 3 orcs bearing down on them at once, and it's wild, because monsters this high level never come this close to the village. They push forward at full speed, desperate to slam into the village and deliver a message to the capital's guild before everything spirals even further out of control. Turns out that whole suits thing was just the spark now. An entire army of orcs is flooding into the area. Harris blurts out he heard 3 orcs were spotted nearby, and the village chief snaps full panic, yelling, "Is everyone okay?" One of the guys who finally slipped away blurts that the monsters are right on his heels, charging straight for the village. Chief Russell roars that they'll stop those guys right here. Then, he yells for anyone who can swing a weapon to fall in behind him. While that's happening, word races to the adventurers in the guild, so they rush out to evacuate everyone and sprint a message to the capital. Harris knows the fight's about to turn into a bloodbath, so he tells Russell, "I'm coming too," and swears he'll help the wounded. They spot a bunch of villagers fast, and Harris barrels over to start examining their injuries right away. They're grateful they made it, but one of the guys snaps, "Yeah, but there are still people up the path trapped right now." Russell tells Harris to stay put and handle the medical stuff while he grabs the heavy lifting and runs point. He snatches up his axe with a wicked grin, bragging that he was the real deal back in the day and that a few orcs don't stand a chance. Harris hurls a command at the villager to move and stay alive, swearing he's way tougher than he looks while, as he finishes bandaging the guy's arm with medicine, he leans in and tells him his wounds are finally good enough, so it's time to head back to the village. The man thanks him for the help, then leans in and warns him to keep his guard up out there because trouble's definitely watching back. So Harris swears he'll be careful, insisting Russell and the best guards in the world are on their side to keep everything locked down but the cool. But the guy shakes with pure terror and blurts out that the situation isn't even close to what they think it is. He snaps that this isn't a few orcs, it's a full-blown horde, and Harris just freezes in place, staring in stunned disbelief. Up ahead, Chief Russell is already in the middle of a savage brawl, barely squeezing through a monster's crushing smash. One of the other fighters screams that the count is totally wrong. There's no way it's just 3, because they're staring down at least 20 orcs. Victoria's breathing quickens as she scans her supplies, panic snapping in because the odds look grim, and she's barely got any magic tools left. Things turn bad in a blink when an orc creeps up on her, and Russell has to shout at her to spin around right before it's too late. Victoria sprints through the woods clutching a seed, panicking that she won't make it in time. She can't afford to. As she's screaming for Leisha to grab it, she hurls the seed at her with every ounce of strength, and the ground erupts, vines burst up and lash the orc in thick, thorny chains. Harris shows up at just the right moment, breathless with relief that he made it, while Victoria fires off her thanks for the save and can't help staring at the plant like, "Wait, what is this?" Harris breaks it down. This thing's called vine bindweed, a wild magic plant that can absolutely crush whole buildings. And he finally admits he only came up with the idea because Leisha's plant growth powers lit the way, though winning still feels like a tiny taste. Because the orc starts flexing and bam, those massive muscles snap the vines like they're nothing at all. Harris finally figures out that with that much brute force, they're just stalling, but he swears he'll keep backing them up. Harris drops the bomb. They're basically out of herbs, and right then, the whole crew realizes they're getting crushed with no real edge in sight. So Chief Russell makes the call and blasts the news they're about to get overrun, hit the retreat, now. Harris and the crew hunker down at a distance as Jurek slides into position right behind the giant oar, poised to make it move. He moved like lightning, slamming a brutal strike into the orc's throat and blasting blood across the battlefield. As she calmly tells everyone to hang on a second while she wraps up cleaning this mess and Harris can't stop staring at that hooded girl, trying to figure out exactly who she really is beneath the S. She rockets straight into the heart of the pack, carving through their weapons at insane speed as she slips through. Harris can't even register what he's seeing. Yurek is flying through the air, and he's wiping out multiple targets in one insane sweep. And she just turns and walks away like it's nothing, while the orcs behind her finally crumple to the ground from her lightning-fast strikes, and Harris spots her instantly. Wait, is that really Jurek? While Russell's jaw drops, he can't believe how strong she is, and he's like, "Who are you?" So Harris leans in and spills the truth she's one of the Steel Fangs, and not just any member, she's Zoen's daughter, the leader who rules the entire All-Beastmen clan. Russell suddenly gets it. They're a top-tier squad, no question. That's why she's basically toying with 20 orcs, shredding through them like they're nothing. Jurek stands dead center in the chaos, while 20 orcs lie scattered across the ground, completely wiped out. The girl's wild, impossible speed. Russell and the villagers are so stunned they can't even find the words, and Jurek just spins back to the group and flashes a casual thumbs up like it's nothing. She's the real deal, a top-tier adventurer through and through. She strides up to Harris and tells him it's been a while, and he immediately thanks her for saving him, yet he can't shake the confusion, because why is she even here in the first place? So Jurek tells her, "I heard you moved to the nearby village," and when she spots chaos starting on the road, she thinks, "All right, I'm helping." But Harris is still reeling. He blurts, "Why are you here now, when everyone's saying her clan is right on the verge of clearing the Stardust Labyrinth?" Jurek just smirks and tells him, "You're a major benefactor to the Steel Fang crew. Adventurers never forget a debt." Harris clocks it. She's still icy calm after that brawl, while Jurek admits he taught her how to stay cool, read the situation, and not lose control. And she flashes back to her rookie days too cocky, landing herself in a brutal mess until her father had to step in and save her. And he swore he'd protect her because in the flashback, a doctor stared at her dad's leg, called it basilisk venom, and said the only way to save him was to slice it off. The healer screams that if Jurek's dad loses his leg, his career is over, and little Jurek falls apart, sobbing that it's all her fault. She snatches the healer's coat and pleads for her father's life, but he just coldly turns his back and strides off, leaving her hanging. He snaps at her, screams that she's unbearable, then spits that if they're really determined to keep the leg, they can just go ahead and die together. Jurek is left alone, sobbing so hard he can barely choke out a word. Then a younger Harris rockets past that jerk healer like he's got somewhere to be. He burst into the room, jaw set, and demanded they bring the patient to him right now. Harris locks eyes with Jurek's dad and instantly realizes the poison and petrification are teaming up and spreading fast, so he thinks, "If I use my dad's research, I can tackle both at once, just as Jurek." Jurek keeps crying for help, but Harris locks eyes with her like he's already won and tells her he'll cure him, so just sit back and watch him work. He rips open his medical kit and blurts out that the cockatrice poison has to be treated the moment the petrification is handled. Then he turns to the little girl and asks if she's ready to jump in and help. He doesn't pat her on the head like some big brother. He tells her she's a good girl, then demands she wipes those tears away and steadies her breathing. They dive into the treatment side by side. Harris shows her exactly how to rub in the cure as the antidote kicks in. Then he watches her closely and calmly coaxes her to slow down just a bit. Harris locks in and tells Jurek she's got to stay calm while they work. And the little girl grips her own thoughts tight. "I have to assess what's happening." And Harris trains on, hammering every step, determined to stop the poison from spreading any farther. They grind through the night together, and when the sun finally climbs up, they wrap everything up for good. Suddenly, Zoen rockets off the bed, flexes like a beast, and roars with pure, unstoppable life. Zoen yanks his daughter into a crushing hug as she sobs happy tears because Harris's treatment worked so perfectly. It brought him back. And now, in the present, Jurek slams the story shut for the group like she's right back in that moment, feeling every second all over again. She tells me Harris didn't just save her father's life, he also yanked her back from the edge of total despair. Tears spill into her eyes as she stares at him, pouring out so much respect and gratitude she can barely find the words. She tells the whole world that her hero got fired unfairly, so now it's obvious she's the one who has to step in and help him. Yurek tells him to dump all the rough stuff on her and her team, and Harris just grins like, finally, he can breathe now that she's here. Zohan looks straight up relieved as he tells the crew, "We needed the muscle way earlier than I expected." And he admits, "That's exactly what I figured from a crew like the Steel Fangs." And he keeps the good vibes rolling, cracking up like they can take on anything that gets thrown their way, while Harris looks a little stressed, hissing at the big guy to stop jinxing them before trouble actually shows up. When the last orc finally gets cleared out, Zohan shouts for everyone to pack up and sprint back to the village. They're already yelling about stuffing down another massive feast the second they step through the door, and Jurek's just standing there stunned, basically begging, "Are we really partying again this soon?" But right when the crew starts sliding out, Yurek suddenly locks up frozen solid. Harris spots her lagging behind, shouts her name, and she just locks eyes on the trees, telling him the fight's far from done, and then lays it out. Orcs don't roll in crowds like this, they stay in small packs, so seeing a horde this massive, that's not normal at all. Harris starts to feel something seriously wrong as he repeats her words, and just like that, a whole flock of birds erupts in panic and rockets off into the sky. Leaving Jurek to brace for the worst as she snaps her daggers up, she's all in now, swearing the leader is finally stepping out of the shadows. The whole crew slams into a defensive circle, weapons up, just as Jurek barks a warning someone's about to crash their party. A terrifying orc warlord shatters through the trees with a massive blade in hand. And just like that, the real fight explodes into action. Harris screams for the team to crush the final boss, but Yurek's staring like she's seen this nightmare before. She tells everyone to back off and vows she'll take it down all by herself. Then the monsters rip loose a brutal blast of wind, and their swings slam into them. Harris and the others get hurled backward like ragdolls, fighting to stay upright. Harris can't believe it. The sheer pressure of that sword did all of it, and now he realizes an orc lord isn't just any boss. It's a rare kind of leader with power so absurd it dwarfs everyone else. It turns into a disaster-class monster that could wipe out the whole village, and Harris can't stop staring. How in the world is something this dangerous even out here? Zohan admits he completely misjudged how huge this threat is, but when Yurek rushes in, the shockwaves slam down so hard she can't even get near the beast. Zohan watches Jurek get crushed in silence, feeling totally useless, and he can't stop wishing he could jump in and save him. Suddenly, Lisha bolts straight toward the fight. Harris freezes in shock and screams her name as she vanishes into the chaos. A flying chunk of debris nearly blows her out of the story. She slips the rock at the last second and immediately thinks, that was way too close. Harris barrels over to her the second she hits the ground, panicking, demanding to know if she's okay after a move like that. Lisha swivels around, a scratch streaking her cheek, eyes locked in pure focus. Then she tells Harris, "Your friend is pushing hard out there, so I'll match that energy and do my part too." Harris watches Lisha gamble everything, and he finally snaps. He can't keep hesitating, so he steps in, tells her he's ready to do whatever it takes, and demands she show him how he can help. Then he leans in and asks Lisha to lend him a hand with his plan, and Lisha is all in, even while Yurek is still back there, clawing his way through everything he can just to stay in the fight. Zohan roars out, demanding to know what Harris is up to, and Victoria blasts back that whatever he's doing is insanely dangerous. Harris shoves the heck out of them, hurls a handful of seeds at the monster, and yells for Lisha to handle it. Bam! The seeds detonate into brutal thorn vines that snap around the orc lord like living chains. The beast gets all tangled up, so Yurek barrels in and smashes at it the second it's trapped. Russell spots that the monster isn't flinching at all, even as the vines lash at it while Victoria watches, panic creeping in second by second. Victoria tells Harris to stare at Lisha's face, and the moment he does, he clocks it. Something's terribly wrong. Lisha looks completely, making Harris wonder if he shoved her too hard because he finally gets it. She doesn't have endless magic, and her breaking point is right there, screaming. He pauses, snaps back into focus, and remembers Lisha was born from a seed using his own magic, and if that's really how it works, then he snatches her close and demands she just channel his magic power straight up so the fight can keep roaring. Lisha locks eyes with him and tells him it's not much, but he better take everything she's got. Harris doesn't even flinch and promises he'll use that power, so Lisha flashes a smile, thanks him, and tells him she feels like she can finally push forward again because right now the two of them are perfectly in sync. And Harris clutches her tight as they watch the thorny vines rush ahead like they're alive. Harris knows all he can do is stall and pray against a regular orc's brute strength, but throw in an orc lord, and even scoring a few precious seconds feels like trying to catch smoke. But he thinks, if he can just yank the big guy's attention for a few seconds, it could be the spark that flips everything right as the orc lord wrenches and thrashes against the magic plants, fighting tooth and nail to rip himself free from the trap. Yurek spots the opening and tells Harris, "Good, this distraction is a godsend." Harris nods, locks in, ready to strike because Boris clocks it. Yurek is back in the fight, and the second she's in range, she rockets sky high and slams down on the monster like a moving shadow. She whips out her daggers mid-air and locks onto a single razor-clean strike. The blade sank deep into the orc lord's neck, blood exploding through the air as Harris and Lisha stared up from below. The massive orc lord finally collapses. He lurches forward, blood exploding across the ground while Harrison and Lisha leap back and watch the monster slam into the dirt. The whole group erupts into cheers. Russell hoists his axe high as everyone celebrates the win, but Harris just stands there, staring. Completely drained, he gasps to say something, but his legs betray him, and as he starts to fall, he frantically begs for help. Lisha and Victoria shriek his name as he face plants into the ground. Russell leans over him and spots it instantly. The guy's completely drained of mana. He can't wrap his head around it. Harris really was reckless enough to burn it all up. The team decides they're dragging Harris back to the village so he can finally sleep off that nightmare. They split up the luggage and get ready to report the attack to the capital, and they have zero clue that a mysterious girl lurks in the trees, staring them down, then clocks Harris as the magic herb apothecary, and her thoughts snap into place. That little crew of his looks like it's gonna cause a major headache later. She hops down, plants herself on the dead monster, and snaps with annoyance at the chaos they left on her favorite orcs. But she figures she's done enough for today, so she straightens up, heads back to the nearby mansion, and rushes to tell her bosses everything. The moment that glass slams onto the table with a sharp crack, one hand clamps down on it like it's about to break. Dolan's going off the rails over the newest sales reports. He's demanding to know why the numbers are so pathetic. Then snaps whether the staff is even trying to squeeze every last cent out of their patients anymore. One of the goons blurts that they're trying their hardest, but the truth hits like a punch. People just aren't showing up anymore. And it lights a fuse under Dolan's rage. He looks like he's about to pop a vein, snapping back that injuries and sickness don't just vanish on their own. Then a creepy stare snaps across his face. As it finally clicks, he realizes the Harris he kicked out is behind all this chaos. And it turns out Harris has been cozying up to the Stockwell Company and the Steel Fang Group, so Dolans is sure he's sabotaging their deal with the Holy Institute on purpose. He hovers over his desk, whispering, "Harris," again and again, trying to force his mind to understand how. Things spiral fast. His staff drops another bombshell, saying Harris is rumored to be making moves to team up with the Spadia family. Dolan slumps there, completely wrecked by the name Spadia. Then his mind snaps back to that arrogant noble who flat out refused to sign an exclusive deal with them. Then it all snaps. He bolts upright, screaming Harris's name at the top of his lungs, calling him a spoiled piece of trash and an eyesore who should have stayed digging in the dirt. Dolens turns his back on his men. He's sure the Spadias won't dirty their hands with someone like Harris, but he's not gambling. He wants Harris dealt with now, before this spirals out of control. He yanks his glasses into place, twists his face into a mean grin, and mutters that Harris is a total brat, then snaps and curses on the spot, swearing he'll crush the guy for good. A few days later, the world finally loosens its grip. Harris is back on his feet outside his place, groaning softly as he stretches his arm into the bright morning sun. He flexes a little, grins like he's finally back in his own skin, and tells everyone, "I'm at full power again." Then he blurts out thanks nonstop. Those magic herbs totally did the trick and snapped him right back while still feeling guilty for dragging them into it. Victoria doesn't let him slide. She barrels right up in his face, eyes blazing, and tells him she means it. Never pull a stunt that reckless again. While Chief Russell keeps watch, Jurek scans the herbs they just grabbed and asks if they've got the right batch. Thank goodness they had Harris's notes. Victoria leans in right over them, hunting for the perfect way to grind them down. Victoria barrels forward, blurting that she's stressed out beyond belief, trying to invent a new recipe on the spot. She says she trusts Harris and his work, but to whip up a potion like that under pressure, that was way more than she could handle. Harris just laughs it off, grinning like he's proud of himself as he raises a flask. Then he starts firing up about his dream of a world where anyone can brew their own medicine. And he can't believe the first real step lands this fast. He tells her he's just relieved they proved his theory works for regular people too. But Victoria snaps back and starts yelling again. She's fine with the medicine working, yet she's not okay with the fact he nearly got himself killed. Jurek's eyes snap to something outside the window, and the whole mood flips in a heartbeat. She yanks Harris over, swears she heard screaming and steel clashing right beyond the village walls, and everyone instantly goes on full alert. Jurek doesn't waste a second. She growls that this feels like real trouble, then tells Harris she's going out first, so he'd better watch the magic herbs while Harris yells back that he's got it and promises he'll catch up as fast as he can. Victoria and Leisha watch, stunned, as the cat girl sprints off into the distance and leaves the other cat girl behind. He bolted past a totally bewildered Russell, leaving the rest of the crew to scramble after him. The chief breaks into a sprint too, firing off, "What's the big rush?" while Harris shouts back as they charge toward the village gates. He tells her that Jurek heard brutal screaming from way outside the village, and she's already vanished ahead to investigate. Russell can't believe the girl's wild hearing. Then, the moment they crest the hill, Victoria spots the chaos and fires off. Is that it? When they finally show up, Jurek is already standing over the bandits she crushed. Once the rest of the crew finally barrels up to the ambush site, Harris yells at Jurek, demanding to know exactly what they're walking into. Jurek tells them they've already wiped out the dozens of bandits on this stretch of road. Then Harris snaps around to a bruised guard by the carriage, demanding to know if it was them who got hit. Harris barrels over with his gear as the man bleeds hard, shouting at him to stay put while he goes straight to those wounds. The wounded guard looks absolutely wrecked. He cringes, apologizes for losing focus, then blurts out to Harris, "Wait, are you really a healer?" Harris pulls his kit together and tells the guy, "I'm not exactly a healer," then lowers the tension, "Just relax and leave the treatment to me." He yanks out a special plant, slams it onto the wound, and boom, an insane flash of light erupts, leaving everyone stunned. The guard is utterly stunned by that feeling. He realizes this can't be normal healing magic, and his mind races as he tries to figure out what's happening. Harris leans in and tells him he's treating people with magical herbs. His new medicine hits fast, and the results say it all. Just as Harris wraps things up, a voice rattles from inside the carriage, chanting magical herbs, like they've been craving those words the whole time. In a glittering fancy dress, the noble girl hops down from the carriage, stretching for a better look at the guy who's been guarding her. The guard shouts, "Lady Emma," as she strides over. And when she locks eyes with Harris, she fires off a question. "Are you the famous magic herbalist I've been hearing about?" Harris gets thrown off by all that attention, but he quickly nods and confirms, yep, he's exactly the man she's been looking for. Emma's face lights up with pure relief, and she blurts that she's finally found him. Then she starts pouring out the real reason her family needs his help. Emma locks eyes with him and asks if he'll team up in a pact with her and with Harris too, and he's just standing there, completely frozen in place. He's drenched in sweat, and she's clutching his hand, staring up at him with those huge, hopeful eyes like her whole heart is waiting for his answer. Behind them, the entire crew just stares as the moment plays out. Lisha and Yurek are utterly lost, and Victoria is roasting with embarrassment, basically dying from it. A massive, bone-chilling scream erupts out of nowhere, echoing through the entire village like a wildfire. It's a lot to swallow, especially when Harris is just some normal guy who gets booted from the Reynard Holy Institute, because the whole place runs on local-level corruption, and that's just the start of the mess, huh? Packed with jerks, he finally ditched it all and moved to the remote village of Delos. Then, shockingly, those past good deeds paid off, because people like Lord Bailey helped him find a real home, and even that grumpy village chief gets pulled into the chaos. Ever since he moved in, new faces keep colliding with him, and old friendships keep snapping back to life. Victoria, Jurek, and of course, Lisha. And somehow, he even managed to stop a massive orc invasion, saving the village from the absolute nightmare. Orc trouble raining down on everyone. After all that chaos, he finally snapped and swore to dedicate his life to spreading magic herb medicine across the world, showing everyone a way to heal without the corrupt church poisoning the cure. But right when he was about to make that massive life choice, everything blew up. Emma's still standing there, gripping his hands, begging him one more time to form a pact, and Harris just freezes, totally speechless. Emma clears her throat and warns him that her choice of words could totally trigger a massive misunderstanding, especially since Emma realizes what she just sounded like, panics, and blurts out a quick apology to clear up the confusion. She steps up and delivers a proper intro saying she's from the Spadia family, and then lays it out. She wants to hire Harris as her exclusive magic herbalist. Harris just stood there, frozen in shock, struggling to even get out the words about being an exclusive hire. The crew hops into their carriages and rolls down the road, chatting like nothing can stop them. The night lays it all out. Real trouble is brewing because their old healer is finally retiring, and they've been scrambling like crazy to find someone new. Harris finally snaps the puzzle into place, realizing why they dragged themselves all this way just to find him. The knight leans in and confirms he's been hearing those rumors too, that he really is living right nearby in Delos village. Emma says they have to hit the local lords at the Antruth estate next, and the knight snaps that they better follow the proper rules because grabbing a worker from the area like this is basically poaching. That night, shame crushed him as he confessed the truth. He'd been the only guard because they'd been sneaking around in secret when the bandits finally struck. The original horses freaked out and bolted mid-trip, but Lord Rome snapped into action and had a fresh carriage ready, so they finally made it to their destination at last. The Antruth residence, this massive mansion, hits different the moment a calm voice inside starts asking Lady Risara how she's been feeling lately. And then, Rosara lets out a little laugh, and it hits everyone like, "Wait, didn't she get checked just the other day?" Then she flashes a smile and swears she's actually doing great since then. Harris's face lights up at the good news. Then he shoves the medicine into her hands and makes her promise one packet every morning and every night. Russell stares at it in pure disbelief, blurting out, "Wait, are you telling me this is just another magic herb potion?" Then his jaw drops when he realizes it doesn't only mend physical wounds, it actually cures diseases. But Harris just grins and says it's even better than that because anyone can make this stuff, even if they've got zero magic and no special talent. Even though Harris is crushing it, he admits his research is barely halfway finished, still battling to crack cures for diseases people swear can't be fixed. There's still a mountain to climb figuring out how to grow herbs packed with even more magic power. And Harris already looks wiped out just from thinking about what's waiting next. Lord Bailey leans in and tells Harris he's got him pinned as the key to what comes next. Then whips around to Russell and starts talking up just how many solid friends the guy's been building lately. Russell watches Harris stride off and, at first, thinks the guy's just another corrupt healer from the Holy Institute. But now he can't ignore it. His eyes are seeing the truth, and everything looks different. Russell gets all fired up and tells Harris, "I'm fully in, count me in," because the idea of a world where magic herbs can save everyone has him completely hooked. And he yanks Harris straight to Lord Bailey as the others stand there, staring, watching the two of them like something's about to snap. Rome strides up and introduces himself as the Stockwell Company's second-generation head, then drops the real reason he's in this business when Harris was a kid. He saved Rome's life. So now Rome's entire operation is about blasting magic herbs across the world. Then Yurik from the Steel Fangs steps up and introduces herself, beaming, "It's an honor to meet you all," and vows she'll repay the debt she owes Harris no matter what. Harris glances at his little companion and asks Leisha if she'll say hello to the whole group too, so a tiny girl introduces herself as Leisha and tells Harris she helps him grow every single herb. She kicks things off super casual, then suddenly tries to switch into stiff, overly polite, proper mode. Rosara's smile blooms as she gushes about how thrilled she is that Harris finally found a truly amazing crew of friends. Lord Bailey whips his gaze toward a fresh arrival and demands, "So who's the little one?" But he spots who it is instantly and strides up to greet Lady Emma, and she bows low, smiling as she tells him she's relieved the Lord is healthy and that she saved the day by bailing. Bailey leans in and says, "I traveled forever just to reach this frontier," and he clocks it instantly. She's here because it has to be Harris. Emma grins at Lord Bailey and tells him he's sharper than most, because the moment he figures it out this fast, she's not wasting a second, and she starts blurting that their family's personal healer is gone. Like a total catastrophe, because once the Spade family, actually they rule a dukedom in the novel kingdom, pure top-tier nobility, so high-ranking that people in the region practically drop to the ground just from hearing their name. Even the proud Intruse nobles swear the Spades are untouchable, but Lord Bailey spots the one glaring problem. They can't make a move until they figure out what Harris wants, so he leans on the young healer and demands his take right now. Harris's eyes sharpen as he says he's honored by the massive offer. Then he lays it out plain and firm because he refuses to accept it. The whole crew watches as Bailey lays it out. If you become the Duke's exclusive healer, you're locked into a comfy, no-struggle life, and he's convinced that's a steal. And Harris admits the whole idea feels like a dream, but then he clenches his fist and snaps that he can't keep leaning on other people's kindness forever. He glances back at his hard work and says, with a grin, that thanks to everyone's help, magic herbs can finally grow in Delos Village. Harris can't stop thinking about how Rome and the others already nailed magic herb medicine, because that means mass production might finally be real, and his ultimate dream is to build a world where every single patient gets saved, no discrimination, no exceptions. So he lays it all out. His next big mission is to forge even stronger medicine and hunt down rare magic herbs no one has ever even found. He quickly blurts out an apology for his bluntness, then tells Emma straight up if she makes him her family's exclusive partner, he'll no longer be able to call his own shots. So he dips into a deep bow to the nobles and, right then and there, officially rejects their massive offer. Lord Bailey locks eyes with him for a beat, then breaks into a shocked grin. "So that's it, I finally get it." And just like that, he understands why Harris got booted from the Holy Institute. He flails his hands and snaps that the temple's just crawling to the duchy. So yeah, no way a genuine guy like Harris would ever belong with them. Emma adds that her father, Arnold, is brutal toward anyone who lacks dignity, so he swore he'd never sign a deal with the Holy Temple. And the guys are like, "Bro, he doesn't sound human. He sounds like a demon." Harris breaks into an awkward laugh, then zeroes in on Director Dolan because he swears he can practically see the guy shamelessly buttering up every noble in sight just to climb higher. But Lord Arnold is nothing like that. He's pure integrity, and he proudly stands behind the white lily crest of the Spadia family. Emma flashes him a gentle look and tells him she understands exactly where he's coming from, like she can feel every bit of support weighing on his shoulders. She gives Lord Bailey, Lady Rosara, and even sweet little Leisha their flowers, because she knows they're the ones who genuinely care about him. For one breath, the entire room freezes. Everybody stares at each other, stunned by just how much Harris has done. With Rome and Zurich by his side, he's built a bond that feels unbreakable. And now even Russell, the village chief who doesn't tolerate weakness, respects him. Ever since Harris arrived in Delos village, the people there have fully latched onto him, like he's become a part of their lives they refuse to let go. Emma shoots a glance at Bailey and admits, straight up, that even if her dad Arnold has other ideas, she thinks forcing Harris to join them with their family power would be a straight-up jerk move that wrecks their reputation, so she's convinced her dad will finally get it. They all freeze in that massive hall for a heartbeat, letting the full weight of the decision slam into their chests. When Harris starts freaking out and blurting out that he might as well just drop by as one of his usual stops, no exclusivity, just business like normal, and Emma yanks his hands up, crowds his space, and stares him down, demanding to know if he's really serious about it. Emma looks at everyone and says, "I'm totally in, just promise me my family back home is on board, okay?" She goes on to swear no doubt at all that Harris is the kind of guy everyone can trust, and it's not just talk. His skills with magical herbs are the real deal. Emma grins and promises she'll send a familiar if she ever needs a hand. And Harris gets completely amped, swearing he'll rush in the moment she calls while the rest of the crew just stands around. They finally exhale, looking way more relaxed now that everything's settled. Victoria whips her gaze across the room and realizes every single person here is insanely talented, and it hits her hard. She wants to be useful too, but then doubt claws at her. She starts telling herself she has zero business sense, zero fighting skills, and no special powers like everyone else. Harris steps up with sheer determination, saying it means the world that someone finally sees him, his research, his heart, and even his friends. And when he turns to Emma, he tells her her support is a massive relief, and Emma just freezes, stunned because the truth hits her hard. All he ever wanted was her finally acknowledging how hard he'd worked. Rome chimes in, stunned that just having a daughter from the Spadia family show up in person like this could shake up their reputation in the biggest way. Emma flashes a huge grin and swears she'll keep coming back to visit as much as she wants, and Bailey's instantly on edge. He even tries to explain that calling it official patronage would probably play way better with the public. Emma blasts out, "Harris Group," and snaps every head toward her while Harris is left completely stunned, even as she keeps going, telling the whole room they have to team up and build the world Harris is dreaming of. The whole crew explodes into a huge cheer, and even though Bailey thinks it's downright ridiculous, his hand still shoots up fist clenched because somehow he can't help but join in. The whole room is buzzing with celebration, everyone's throwing smiles around, even the quiet ones, and Lady Risara watches from her bed, soaking it all in. Risara hears those familiar footsteps closing in on the door, and she can't help but grin, laughing to herself, because that troublesome kid finally made it home. The others catch her words, and curiosity snaps on instantly. Then, in the blink of an eye, they all realize exactly who she's talking about. Suddenly, the door explodes open, and Victoria Andrews bursts in screaming at the top of her lungs that she's back. Everyone just freezes in place, staring because the sudden entrance of the Aunt Ruth daughter hits like a thunderclap and leaves the whole room in total shock. Harris scrambles to smash the awkward silence by telling Victoria it's been ages, and he's just relieved she's okay. Yet she stares right through him, like she's seen a ghost. She's so stunned to find him in her house that she can't squeeze out a single word. She just stands there, stammering, while her mind spins out of control. Emma just grins through the chaos and tosses Victoria a casual hello, like this whole situation isn't freaking weird at all. Victoria shrieks, demanding an answer for why Harris and Emma are inside her house together. That shock hits so hard her mind basically blanks out for more than 4 minutes, while everyone else just stands there, staring as she loses her mind. Harris and the others scramble to get her to react because she's just frozen in place. Hands clamped over her face like she's stuck in a nightmare. She finally shakes herself out of it, smooths her collar in one quick motion, and snaps back into control. Victoria dips into a deep bow, rushes out an apology, and admits she completely blanked for a second, then finally greets Harris properly after all this time. She blurts out, "I'm sorry I made a huge scene in front of everyone." And then she formally introduces herself, then tells them she's currently studying at Knoll Royal Academy. Victoria tells everyone she basically hit the jackpot with a natural gift for healing magic. Now she's grinding every day, determined to earn her way as a real professional healer. From her bed, Rosara blurts out that Victoria's been quietly idolizing Harris ever since he saved her life. Victoria totally snaps, blushing like crazy. She storms at her mom and screams for spilling a secret she was never supposed to tell. Emma's shocked that anyone from her own family actually made it out to this remote estate. Then, Lord Bailey barrels in and demands to know if she's really here. Just to case Harris. Lord Bailey shuts that idea down fast, and Emma jumps in since they couldn't strike a deal. She was just about to leave, only to leave Victoria standing there completely baffled. Bailey leans in and asks Harris if he's really sure about rejecting her, because landing a job with a ducal house would basically lock in his future. But Harris digs in and tells them, "We already struck a deal for house calls, so I'm not trapped in that exclusive contract." The second Victoria hears the news, she's set off like a spark, bursting into loud cheers and shouting that the entire Antruth family is going to be endlessly grateful for the help. Emma finally blurts out what she's really thinking, and it completely blindsides Victoria, making her choke on a weird little sound. Emma says they haven't really bonded at the academy yet, and now she's begging for this moment so they can finally get to know each other for real. She blindsides Victoria with a nickname, then straight up asks, right there, "Can we be friends?" Harris wraps up his explanation, and right on cue, Emma steps forward, formally thanking him and Victoria on behalf of the Spadia family. Victoria starts panicking, insisting there's no way she can ever be friends with someone as famous and high class as Emma, while Emma just stares at her gloves, calm as ever. Harris stares at the girl's hand, asks if it's a magic burn, and then realizes, yeah, it's probably from how insanely hard she's been pushing herself in training lately. Emma jumps in, praising how staying locked onto a goal is straight up impressive no matter who you are. Then she insists on personally checking the injury right then and there, since she lights up at the thought of helping a hard worker, then reaches out and tells Victoria she'd truly be honored just for a second if they could hold hands. And, which completely floors Victoria, she turns bright red, blurts that she'd love to, and insists the pleasure's all hers, still looking like she can't believe he just offered. Right when the two of them finally seal the deal with a handshake, Harris tells Victoria, "I love your fire," but warns her she's got to quit burning herself out and stop forcing her body past the breaking point. And just like that, everyone rushes to the front gates because the carriage is already waiting to haul the guests back home. Harris waves them off, tells Emma to keep him posted if any other medical problems pop up that need his attention, as she leans out the window, shouts thanks, and tells him her dad's going to be over the moon because they won't have to lean on the Holy Institute anymore, which gets Lord Bailey thinking. He watches them storm out and immediately asks if Emma's got some personal grudge against the Institute. She's basically sure she just can't stand the way they've been acting ever since the new leadership took over, and once that change hit, everything spiraled downhill fast. Grassam turns back to the good old days, insisting everything was better under the previous director, especially after Harris and Sergustev personally treated him. He keeps going, and it turns out that even with Harris's tiny mana back then, his grueling effort as an assistant still screamed through, so much so that Lady Emma took notice, and that's apparently the whole spark that caught her attention. Victoria's eyes lit up with pure wonder, sparkling like a kid hearing a legend about a legendary hero for the very first time. Grasm lays it out for everyone. Emma can't stand the Holy Institute's selfish cruelty or the way they twist their healing powers to hurt people, and Harris is stunned because that part is completely new to him. Victoria pops her head out and tells Grasm to end it, and the knight nods, then declares they're all packing up and heading out. Victoria swears she can feel Emma's elegance vibrating through the carriage walls, and Harris and the rest just freeze there, stunned because no one has any idea what kind of aura she's even talking about. Suddenly, Victoria snaps to it. She almost forgot something crucial. She rips open a sealed envelope and tells Harris, "I've got a letter from the headmaster," like he's been waiting for something specific just to reach him. As she hands it to him, she blurts out the only thing she knows: this thing is supposed to be a massive help for his medical research. Harris locks eyes on the letter, stunned by what might be inside, then swears he'll come by and pay his respects as soon as everything at the village calms down. Victoria snaps into action, shouting at Harris, and it catches him completely off guard right when he's about to head out. She tells him she's been grinding herself to the bone to become a top-tier healer, but the real dream burning in her chest is blending that magic with herbal medicine to save as many lives as she possibly can. The girl spirals even harder. She leans in close and tells him, "That's exactly why I need to ask you for a massive favor." And it leaves Harris. He just stands there, frozen in shock, as Victoria grabs the moment and asks right then, right there, for him to take her on as his apprentice in herbal medicine. She tells them she's hunting for the real power hiding in Herb's stuff power that crushes what normal healing magic can even dream of, while Emma stands on the sidelines, staring and watching as she explains. And Harris just stood there, silent as a statue, back turned. Victoria's nerves spiked, and she blurted his name again, praying he'd give her any sign. Harris smirks to himself when apprentice hits, because that word yanks him back to when he was just a kid, screaming at his old man to teach him everything so he could finally start helping people too. In his memories, his father snaps his gaze up from the medical gear and tells young Harris that getting an apprentice is a huge ask, especially since he feels like he's still figuring himself out. Then he pats Harris on the head and promises that if he's truly serious about forging a new future for medicine, they can walk that road together, and the memory still haunts him. Harris gets slammed by the hit, and he swears to himself he'll get it right this time. Then he turns to Victoria, and she snaps back instantly, already braced for whatever he's about to say next. Harris locks eyes with Victoria and tells her, "If you're serious about medicinal herbs, your academy studies come first." And once she realizes that he's ready to take her on as his comrade in this brave new era of medicine swearing, he'll teach her everything he knows, no secrets held back. Victoria's eyes explode with excitement at the news, and she shoots her hand towards she starts. She blurts out a massive "yes" and yanks Harris's hand, thrilled out of her mind as she tells him she can't wait to team up. As her carriage lurches forward, Victoria throws both arms up, waves like crazy, and screams that he needs to come to the academy soon because they'll be waiting for him. A few days fly by, and Harris stays glued to the house, mapping out how coagulation grass and calming grass really work. He kept scribbling the exact recipes for stuff like crimson lizard disease and wolf bite disease until he finally slammed shut the whole guide. He hustles the finished notebook to the group and grabs Rome's eye with a quick, "Can you check this again?" He just wants to be 100, sure the info is right. Rome scans it and grins, saying, "It's perfect, anyone can read it, so the guild can totally crank out the huge-scale production from here." With the whole crew pitching in, they finally kick the magic herb potion production into gear and get it moving for real. The moment the operation kicks off, Delos Village swings into action and takes full control of growing every last magic herb. While they're busy running the farms, the crew from the Stockwell Company swoops in and takes over every single processing job. Even the adventurer escorts jump in, hauling those brutal heavy crates so nothing falls behind. Village Chief Russell slaps Harris's shoulder hard, then pushes him out the door and tells him to go because the village is officially in his hands now. Harris pumps his fist and declares that he's officially heading to the academy fully locked in and ready for the next huge step. As they lurch onto the road, Harris shoots Rome a thank you for lining up the carriage, but that isn't even the biggest thing he's thankful for. And before anything else, he made sure to thank her for getting Leisha those brand new clothes. Rome swears it was nothing, then tells Leisha she looks absolutely amazing. So the moment he says it, the little girl erupts into giggles, glowing with pure joy. Inside the carriage, Harris can't stop himself from worrying like, is it really safe for Rome, a big shot company rep, to be riding with them? So Rome just grins at him and says, relax, everything's handled. She's got a solid crew back in the village, running the whole show. Rome fidgets with her brand new glasses and declares she can't afford to miss a single business deal. Then Harris cuts in like, so what's up with the look? And he shoves himself toward the carriage window, finally spotting the stop, and they've made it. The whole crew stands there right outside the Noel Royal Academy. This place is so gigantic, it's basically swallowing the sky. They step into the bright courtyard, march past the towering fountain, and head straight for the main entrance. Yurek scans the school in stunned awe, and Harris leans in like, so is this your first time seeing the academy? Victoria jokes that she's already survived rough adventure towns and dungeon crawls, and Yurek has to admit this fancy place really is a breath of fresh air. Harris orders everyone to lock in and stay focused so they don't lose their way, and he makes it crystal clear. Leisha, stick right by his side, and the little girl yells, I've got it, as Rome keeps needling Harris for acting like a full-on scared teacher. High up in one of the academy's windows, an old man leans out, eyes locked on them as he shouts, calling Harris the demon herbalist, and muttering under his breath, he's convinced Harris is about to put something to good use any second now. Inside the school, a strange glowing egg sits on a table, pulsing as a voice explains it's meant to spark a new vision for the world, but nobody can tell what's about to crawl out when it finally hatches. Back outside, Victoria is grinning from ear to ear, arms flung wide like she's been waiting all day. She beams that they've been waiting for the group to finally show up. Harris thanks her for making the time to show up and meet them like this, and the rest of the crew just soaks up the view as they stride through the academy grounds. Harris can't help but point out the truth. This is the very first time Leisha and Yurek have ever set foot in an academy. Victoria starts flexing hard, claiming the place has it all from fancy high-end gardens to full-on arenas where the students can train. Leisha and Yurek stare in awe, but Victoria snaps, explore later. Right now we're getting everyone to the headmaster's office. No delays. As Harris strides through the massive hallways, he can't shake the feeling that this place is always swallowing him whole. No matter how many times he's come back, it still feels freakishly, impossibly enormous. Victoria keeps up the tour guide routine, telling everyone that this school lures students from every corner of the kingdom so they can train for magic fights and still handle regular studies. She says it's all because the academy only lets in the absolute top tier, so the vibe hits completely different from anywhere else. Rome takes in the fancy surroundings and nods like, if every student here is truly elite, then the school better look this impressive too. Victoria strides through the halls, grinning like she's about to uncover a secret, and yells for everyone to follow her as they watch what happens next. They slam the brakes in front of these massive doors, and Harris just goes, yeah, I've been here before. But there's something about the way the air feels that scares him. About this entrance, it feels totally different. He can feel a brutal wave of pressure blasting out of that room. And just right as they're frozen in place, a voice cracks from the other side and orders them, come on in. Inside, the academy's big shots are already waiting. Headmaster Milo and Vice Headmaster Norman. And Milo breaks the ice by singling out Harris, calling him out as the magic herb pharmacist. Harris flashes a polite bow, admits it's been ages, and shoots out a quick apology for being so late to the formal greeting. Milo tells him, don't sweat it, and reminds him he knows how brutal it got for Harris after they tossed him out of the Holy Academy. He even boasts that he's heard all about the huge invitation Harris snagged from the legendary Spadia family, and Harris doesn't deny it for a second. He just reveals he decided to shut that offer down instead. Milo takes that in and thinks, if Harris turned them down, he probably won't bite on an invite to this academy either. Harris starts blurting out an apology to the headmaster, insisting the school's absolutely amazing, but he's got his own road to take. Milo watches from the window and blurts that he's gotta be the guy who's been roaming the village to study herbs and help people. Norman cuts in that it's time to go, and Harris just nods, confirming that's exactly what he's been doing. Victoria cuts in and asks Harris straight up if he ever read her letter. He admits he did, then figures it's just her way of getting him new supplies for his research. Headmaster Milo grumbles under his breath for a second, then naps, pulling Norman over like he's got something rare and dangerous to show him. The crew leans in and spots a weird, patterned egg sitting in a box, and Harris is completely blindsided, staring at it like he can't blink. Norman tells them it's not an ordinary egg at all, it's a familiar's egg, and he's dead sure it'll come in handy for someone with Harris's killer skills. Harris stares at the egg and can't stop thinking about how badly he wants a brand new familiar. It brings Lisha rushing back to his mind, born from a magic herb who's already saved him in 100 ways with her powers and her pure, unstoppable kindness. He figures that if this new partner can back him up like she already does, then yeah, he'd be insanely lucky to have them by his side. Norman points out the egg looks like it's about to crack open any second, but the contract paperwork will drag on, so he tells Harris to hurry over and scope out the academy while they wait. Harris says it's been ages since they last hit the academy, and you can practically feel everyone buzzing with excitement to step foot there. The whole group strides through the doors into the main hall. Then Harris freezes dead in his tracks when he spots a massive crowd waiting. The students instantly swarm in, pestering Harris for herb lessons, grilling Rome about their latest tricks, and even chasing Jurek down for a spar while some girls beg Lisha to join their tea party just because she's so cute. Harris is completely thrown off by the noise, while Victoria just stands there, baffled. Why is the school suddenly acting like this until she finally remembers she told everyone how Harris saved the day at her parents' house. Because once that story hit the streets, he became a local celebrity, and that's when. Victoria's guilt hit hard after she caused that scene, so she rushed in with an apology while Harris just shrugged it off with a laugh, like, yeah, this is happening, there's no turning back now. Rome insists he's genuinely happy to talk because these students could be future customers, and Jurek and Lisha. They're ready to spar and hang out at the drop of a hat. Harris nods and tells the students he can't wait to show them a few magic herb tricks, so when Victoria burst in and shouted that her classes were over for the day, no way she's missing out on the action. Everyone snaps into action and decides to turn the whole day into one huge joint training session for everyone. The whole crew dives straight into it, and Harris kneels in the grass to teach the students how to handle rare magic herbs. Nearby, Jurek launches into a crazy mid-spar flip that knocks a student clean off balance, while Lisha lounges like it's nothing, trading tea-time vibes for sharp, brutal kicks. One student stares at Rome with pure respect, thanks him from the bottom of his heart, and vows to grow his family shop into something big enough to trade with him. Rome grins and tells the kid he can't wait for it, pushing him to keep going, Zen. Then, the girl sparring with Jurek throws her hands up, gasping for air. She finally admits she couldn't even get close to landing a single hit. Jurek grabs her hand, praises how razor-sharp her swordplay is, then hits her with the truth. If she wants to take down those faster opponents, she's got to sharpen her tactics too. At the tea table, the students gush their thanks to Lisha for such a calm, easy day. And she just smiles and tells them the pleasure was all hers. As the day fades, a student leans in and tells Harris she's 100 coming back after graduation to keep learning magic herb lessons. Harris just nods like he owns the moment, grins, and tells him he'll be right there the instant that time finally arrives while, as the students freeze in disbelief, they finally understand Harris and his crew aren't just ahead, they're on a totally different planet. Victoria nods like, yeah, My noble training's fine, but then reality punches her real-world combat skills are a whole different beast. Harris cuts in and says magic herbs aren't just skill boosts, they're perfect for stacking up solid basic stamina, and Victoria's eyes go wide as he flips. He flips through his notes, breaking down how certain herbs kickstart blood flow and make his muscles recover way faster than they ever would on their own. He explains that if you mix these with regular training, you can forge a way stronger body, no matter that the herbs were originally meant for medicine. Harris then thrusts his research notes into Victoria's hands and tells her he's handing them to her, shocking the life out of her as she stares, wondering if he's truly serious. He tells her he can, but he quickly reminds her her usual schoolwork still comes first. Victoria clutches the book to her chest, grinning so wide it feels like she's glowing, then vows she'll work her hardest to meet every last one of his expectations. Jurek throws Victoria a quick fist bump and tells her they've got to spar again when they meet next time because Victoria is so down for it. Right then, the vice headmaster storms in and announces the contract is finally ready right in the office for them to sign. Harris and Leisha lock eyes, then fall in behind him. Then, out of nowhere, someone yells, "Harris!" from behind, so he slams the brakes, spins around, and hunts for the voice. A bunch of students crowd in to thank Harris for his mind-blowing lecture on magic herbs, and even beg him to come back and teach them again. Harris throws his hands up and says, "I'm in," then vows to make sure everyone finally sees just how terrifyingly powerful magic plants really are. As the kids march off, the vice headmaster leans back, eyes tracking their retreat, and mutters that a real, dedicated botany department might finally be on the way. The headmaster clocks exactly how much the students soaked in today, and Norman shoots Harris a grateful look for turning that session into pure gold. Milo can't stop pointing out how awesome it is to see everyone so fired up watching them. This excited feels like a massive win for him. He snaps back, realizes he's rambling, and cuts it off, telling Harris it's time to touch the egg and kick off his magic. Harris shot his hand forward, mind racing as he worried his magic stores were dangerously low for a familiar contract, and then he remembered how the village had saved him the last time. The headmaster clocks his hesitation and offers to jump in, pouring extra mana his way if he's running low right when it happens. But just then Leisha strides right up, takes his hand with a huge grin, and makes it crystal clear she's got his back. Harris snaps her head back and realizes she's here to help him, so he shoots her a quick thanks and they charge forward side by side. Leisha snatches Harris's hand, buzzing with adrenaline, and shouts that it's go time for the contract time. To give it everything they've got, they both pour every ounce of power into that egg, and boom, an enormous wave of light crashes through the whole room as the magic finally locks in. Makdi and the others stare in tense silence as the egg suddenly starts to split, and she blurts out the moment she sees it, the shell is finally cracking, and the light blares even harder as the egg cracks wide open, hatching right before their eyes. As the glow fades, Harris throws up a hand to block the light, and in that exact second, he realizes they've finally reached the moment they've been waiting for. Seeing a tiny, round little owl bird is perched there, and suddenly everyone's like, "Wait, is this tiny chick really meant to be our new familiar?" The entire crew swarms around the little guy perched on his cushion, while Victoria and Jurek are still reeling, trying to wrap their heads around it. This tiny bird is a real, magical familiar. Milo strides in and claims the birth went perfectly, then swears it's all because Harris and Leisha team up flawlessly. Harris can't stop thinking about how their combined power pulled this off, then cracks a joke that it basically makes Leisha the bird's big sister. Leisha is completely swept away by the idea, eyes shining as she's absolutely thrilled to finally become a big sis to the new little guy. Leisha freezes for a beat when Harris throws out the big sister idea, then boom, she gets hyped and vows to do her best as the little bird chirps along. Norman shoves a handbook into the kid's hands, tells him how to raise the familiar, and makes it crystal clear as long as the little guy keeps getting fed and soaking up mana from the village, he'll be just fine. Harris thanks them for everything, and right then it hits him before they do anything else. That little bird needs a name. He tells you, straight up, that naming a familiar isn't just cute. It's a huge ritual that seals the bond between the bird and its owner as official. So Yurek jumps in and says her old swordmaster was named Nash. Then he points out that the bird's look matches his so perfectly that it's like a dead giveaway. Victoria's jaw drops. She blurts out, "Wait, are you talking about the legendary Nash deal with the Steel Fang clan, the Falcon Sword?" The whole group finally admits it. This clan's legendary name wouldn't exist at all if it wasn't for everything Hero built back in those days. Harris says he's heard every heroic tale about that warrior, then leans into the bird and tells it he's praying, "You grow up just as dependable." He drops to one knee and officially christens the little guy Nash, then turns to the bird and asks how it feels to wear its new name. The little bird chirps like it's over the moon for its new master, and Victoria practically exhales because seeing the tiny guy latch onto him is a massive relief. Harris tells Nash he's got his back from here on out, while Leisha ushers the little guy in with a warm welcome. Because now their bond is official, the bird becomes a certified magic companion for the herbalist's familiar. Headmaster Milo leans in and tells Hera, "We're heading back to the village soon, so start putting the little guy to work right away, okay?" But Harris isn't buying it for a second. He points out that Nash was just born, and he's so tiny he can't possibly do a thing yet. Norman just shrugs it off with a laugh, saying the Academy's familiars are a whole different beast, and he swears that Bird will be ready to jump in and help before you can even blink. Harris is told to just touch the magic stone on the bird's forehead and pour a little mana into it. And while Harris looks unsure about all this magic, he can't exactly back. The moment he tries it, bam, blinding light explodes, and Nash suddenly balloons into a giant bird that towers over everyone in the room. Lesha's jaw drops. She can't believe any of this, and Victoria even admits that sure, her guild uses bird familiars too, but she's never ever seen one this level of crazy. Once their trek is over, Norman tells Harris the only thing he has to do is gently stroke the stone. No mana, no shrinking magic, just tap it and bring him back down. But Norman warns him when they're in the air, don't touch that thing for even a second. As Norman dashes off to grab a riding saddle for the bird, Milo yanks Harris aside and starts whispering about something way more serious. When Harris asks if anyone's heard what the Holy Academy has been up to lately, he clocks it instantly. This whole mess is tied directly to Director Dolan. Harris marches up to the headmaster and admits, "I haven't heard a single word from my old workplace since they kicked me out that day." But Milo fills him in ever since the sanctuary banished him. Group after group has been yanking their contracts. Norman jumps in too, warning Harris to tread carefully, because once that director snaps, who knows what he'll do. The headmaster leans in and tells Harris this when the pressure hits hard. It's the ones who truly trust him that will stand right beside him and fight with him. Up and Victoria with Jurek rush in right away, snatching the moment to tell Harris to get out of the Holy Academy because their little plans don't hit them at all, and Jurek even swears he'll cut down anyone who dares move against them. Victoria swears she'll jump in too, and little Leisha wastes no time making it crystal clear she's not letting anyone do the work alone, and she's not staying behind either. Harris whips his gaze across his friends and Nash, that giant bird, and just stands there, thanking everyone for standing by him like this. Milo grins and tells Harris he's got real luck, because with a crew like that in his corner, there's no problem big enough to knock them down. The old man finally cracks and admits it. He's got huge hopes for the world. Harris is trying to forge with his magic herb research. Harris fires back that he won't let him down, and the whole crew piles onto Nash's back, ready to ride out and prove every word he said. The giant bird blasts into the sky, swooping the whole group high over the academy grounds as they kick off their treacherous trip back to the village. Milo and Norman stand shoulder to shoulder as they watch Harris stride off with the girls, and Milo calls after him, saying he's got an awesome crew who truly backs him. And as Nash rockets into the sky, the headmaster shouts that the whole academy is cheering for him too, so the students crane their necks, watching that massive bird vanish into the clouds while Harris stares down, stunned at how fast the academy shrinks in the distance. Leisha is living her best life, screaming with joy about how high they're soaring. And yet they're still... But Victoria is losing her mind. She's trembling like crazy, absolutely certain that if she slips from this height, she'll splatter into a full-on pancake on the ground. Jurek tries to play it helpful, telling Victoria she'll be fine if she just spreads out the impact when she lands, but the second she hears it, Victoria gets even more panicked. So Nash just keeps diving through the sky, because what Jurek swore is utterly impossible for anyone who isn't a super-powered adventurer. Back in Delos village, Chief Russell keeps pacing, wondering if Harris and the others even made it to the academy yet. One of the guys shrugs and says it's such a brutal long trek that they won't see them back for at least a few days. Then, boom, an enormous shadow slams across the ground, and both of them snap still, staring up while Russell scrambles to figure out what the heck just happened. Leisha blasts into shouting that she's finally home the second Nash touches down, and Harris practically beams while Victoria is still tearing up from that wild flight. Everything in the village feels eerily still, and that's exactly how the trip to the academy ends. Russell nods along as Harris clocks it. This village isn't just busy anymore. It's starting to feel alive in a whole new way. Right when the chief starts talking about being so lively, the second the group steps out for the academy, bam, someone shows up at their door. And Harris can't believe it because he's just started to say, "I." Harris is stunned to see Grasm standing there, and when Grasm greets him and says it's been a few days, Harris barely listens. He's staring at the new guy and demands what brought them here, and who the other one even is. And then the younger guy says, "I'm Victor," and claims he's with the Royal Knights of Noel, so Harris can't even wrap his head around it, stunned that someone this high-ranking would be out here in the middle of nowhere. Victor leans in and tells you he just got word from Grasm. He even knows the whole story about how Harris signed that contract to run home medical visits for the Spadia family, and Harris suddenly realizes the endgame, and Victor wastes zero time right out of the gate. He asks if Harris will handle medical checkups for the Royal Knights too. He admits the Knights are getting seriously fed up with the Reynard Monastery lately, like the kind of fed up that's starting to boil over because their job keeps them dodging death every single day. But the monastery's help is a total bust right when the Knights need it most, so Victor realizes he's been roasting Harris's old home, apologizes for his rudeness, but Harris just shrugs it off, telling him there's no need to stress at all. Then makes it crystal clear he doesn't trust the academy lately either. Victor beams and tells the whole village, "Thanks for the help," because with the magic herb production flying along and Nash's wings ready to go, they're delivering the meds to tonight's orders in no time. He tells the group to hand the Knights' consultations to him, and Chief Russell hits back with a heartfelt thanks as both sides finally seal the deal with a firm handshake. Grasm shoots them one more heartfelt thank you, but then his smile drops face going stone cold because he says, "There's actually one more thing we've got to talk about." And just like that, Victor steps in and lays it out. Turns out the knighthood just got hush-hush orders straight from the people calling the shots at the very top. The whole mission is dead set on finding one super rare special flower, like it matters way more than any ordinary plant. Victoria hears that and can't believe why Harris would end up in a hunt for a flower. Then her brain clicks into place and everything starts lining up. Victor tells Harris, "You've got a razor-sharp eye," and that confirms it. This flower isn't just any bloom, it's a rare, magical herb they've been hunting. The second Harris hears about a magic herb, his attention snaps right to it, because if that's real, then his own specialty might finally turn into the kind of advantage that changes everything, So Victor shoots out an apology because right now the Knights are still missing a ton of the details, and they just can't quite pin everything down yet, but then he drops the bomb that the Holy Institute is hunting the very same flower too, and Harris can't wrap his head around the fact that his old workplace is already in the mix. Harris stares back at his days in the Holy Temple, convinced they kicked him out only because his herbal medicine threatened their healing magic money machine. But Headmaster Milo had told him to stay razor careful because the old man could feel the temple was cooking up something shady behind the curtain. While the others just huddle there, swallowing worry, Harris can't quit this one thought. What if that demon grass is secretly tied to the sanctuary he's been missing? It leaves him staring, trying to figure out what the deal is with that mysterious flower. The crew rockets through the sky in a fast hop, skimming straight over the snow-capped mountains of Woodbury Fief, a totally cut-off slice of the Noel Kingdom where Victor points out the crazy twist this trip that normally eats days on the ground took just one single flight to finish. Harris flashes Nash a warm head pat and tells the big owl, "You did great," while thanking him for the ride. When they finally hit Lake Gyojsu, Lisha lights up and yells for everyone to look at that gorgeous water shimmering in front of them. Anduric leans in and says they're at Dawn Moon Lake, one of the kingdom's 3 biggest mysteries, where crystal-clear water and towering forests make the whole place look like it was pulled straight from a dream. Harris drinks it all in, and it hits him. This kind of wild chaos is exactly where you'd stumble on a rare magic plant like the demon grass flower. Harris can't stop thinking about the crazy journey they've taken all the way to these mountains because the kingdom's knights begged them to track down the rare demon grass flower, and while they're gearing up, here's the twist. Rome stays behind for a while to cram in all the supply prep before he finally links back up with the group later. The crew rolls up to the Woodbury estate at the edge of the Noel Kingdom, and when the gate guards spot Victor, they swing the gates open and let them in. As they stride through those fancy halls, Harris keeps reminding himself that Lord Zykel, the one running this place, isn't just some noble. He's the Spadia family's head's brother-in-law. Because Zykel is the Duke's close kin, Harris knows he has to put on his best act, no slip-ups allowed, so things can't spiral out of control, which leads. And that's when Victor finally blurts out that he's been hating these fancy formal events for ages, while Harris just laughs and says, "Trust me, I feel the exact same." Victor tells him to chill out and keep his cool, because nobody's actually going to come at him to eat him or anything. Yurek keeps twirling her dagger and snaps that anyone who messes with her will get turned into fish Phil Ace, while Harris can only pray she stays calm and keeps the peace. Just like that, Lord Zykel Woodbury finally barrels in with a huge grin, laughing, "Sorry I kept you all waiting." Victor tells him it's totally fine, then straight up thanks the Lord for actually making time to meet with their group today. Lord Zykel shoots Harris a sharp look and demands to know if he's the weed pharmacist everyone's been talking about lately, and Harris flashes a proper bow and introduces himself as the magic herb pharmacist, while Jurek and Victoria stand watch beside him. Zykel shrugs it off and grins, saying he's blown away by the nerve Harris had to bail on the Reynard sanctuary and link up with the Stockwells and the Spadia family too. Harris waves it off like it's nothing, claiming he's only pulled this off because everyone around him has been downright kind lately. The Lord points out that Harris even has a rock-solid link to the Royal Knights, and Victor can't hide the unease crawling over him. As everyone funnels into the sitting area, Zykel can't stop chuckling under his breath like he's just stumbled on something wildly fascinating. And in his head, he's already caching the future, spotting this kid as a goldmine and plotting how he's getting his cut of all that action. He tries to play it cool and warns Harris that too much success can drag a guy into trouble, but Victor barrels in and shuts him down on the spot. Right then, an older knight in thick, heavy armor stomps into the room and blurts out an apology for crashing the conversation, like he was about. He locks eyes with Harris and tells him straight up he's about to teach the kid a brutal lesson for all that disrespect. Zykel just chuckles it away like it's nothing, dodges the whole thing, and leans in asking Harris if it's true, if he's really there to survey the plants in the great Widmark forest, and Harris nodded, confirming the Knight Order's High Command had actually issued him a direct order to do exactly that. The Lord pauses for a beat, then nods. "Yeah, it's fine," granting Harris official permission to charge into the woods. He yanks out a round, patterned transit pass, slaps it into Harris's hands, and tells him all he has to do is flash it to the guards to get through. Harris snatches the pass, shoots a quick thank you, and gears up to roll out with the rest of his crew as, right when they're about to bolt, Sakal slams the brakes and stops him. There's one last question he's been dying to ask. He fires off a question at Harris. Why risk everything by standing up to Director Dolence? Because if he'd just kept his head down at the academy, he could have coasted into a life of pure comfort. Harris glances away for a split second, and even he has to admit Sakal's right. Life makes it look way too easy. But he locks eyes with the Lord and flat out says that only those kind of prophets can exist because they wrap their patience around themselves like a shield. He lays it out plain. This entire world runs on the misery of people who can't afford help or who'll burn through everything they've got just to keep breathing. Harris stands his ground, replaying every person he's helped in his head, and realizing their smiles hit harder for him than any status this world could ever hand over. Sakal just bursts into laughter, then tells Harris straight up that the guy in his seat is aiming for some seriously noble goals. As the crew starts moving out, the Lord leans back and watches them leave, saying he can only pray the day never comes when Harris starts regretting the choice he made. He shouts one final warning. Those magical beasts in the forest are pure monsters, so keep your guard up. And at last, the group storms through the massive front gates of the estate. Yet the talk about Sakal isn't even close to finished, because as the stern knight glares over his shoulder, frustration crackling in his voice, he snaps that there's a line you just don't cross when it comes to mocking people. Grassam snaps at him to shut his mouth and mind his words because they're still standing on Woodbury land. The knight refuses to drop it, grilling Grassam about whether he missed that look on the guy's face like he's clearly cooking up some dark scheme. Jurek jumps in, pointing out that even with all that show, the Lord never left even one opening, and his guard stayed razor-sharp. She figures that because he's tied to the Spadia bloodline, somebody's trying to take him out every single day, so he's got to stay razor-ready. Harris blurts out that the Holy Order is his biggest worry, especially if they're hunting down the demon grassflower. Next. Grassam nods hard, saying, Director Dolence wouldn't just back off. Because the Reynard Holy Order is the kingdom's one and only medical stop, nobles and knights can't ignore them. They've got serious sway. Grassam admits, as a knight, he wants to believe the order isn't just being exploited for personal profit, but deep down, he knows that hope is probably just wishful thinking. He rolls out a secret mission on the spot, praying no shady mastermind is secretly sabotaging them from the shadows as Harris goes silent for a beat and then Grassam finally snaps guessing and standing around isn't going to get them answers. Harris shakes off the bad vibes, tells the group they've got nothing to fear as long as they stay together, and then leans in. He's really counting on them and he jabs a finger toward the horizon and snaps, crew time to finally plunge into the Widmark Great Forest. Back at the Reinhardt Holy Order, someone has fully snapped, screaming their lungs out in pure, uncontrollable rage. Dolence is ripping through his office, screaming at the ceiling because the Spadia family and the Knights have suddenly turned his whole life into a non-stop nightmare. His assistant blurts that their men are holding everyone back right now, but you can feel it, because it's only a countdown before everything finally breaks. Dolence takes a swig, grumbles that the Knights are basically his favorite customers, and admits their non-stop injuries keep his business alive. Then he vows Harris isn't going to snatch that away. One of his goons blurts out that he's heard Harris and the whole crew already kicked off, racing toward Great Widmark Forest, and that's huge, because everybody knows that place is a full-blown nightmare stuffed with some of the deadliest magical beasts on the planet. Dolence snaps into this seriously creepy stare and says, if that forest is truly that dangerous, then it's gotta be. You really can't do anything when a few losers stumble in and get turned into nothing but monster bait. The hooded girl loomed nearby, smirked, and said everyone would just label it a tragic accident, laughing at how terrifying the whole thing felt. She grabs her gear, heads out to check that bait and see how it's holding up. And Dolence leans in and tells her he's counting on her. She just has to stay locked in, watching every single thing unfold right up to the very last second, before he finally bursts into laughter to himself. He can't stop thinking about Harris, and he swears that once the monsters are finished with him, he'll bring flowers to his grave. Harris and the crew stride into the woods as a blinding light spills around them. In the amber leodes, the witch stares into her crystal ball and spots it. Harris and his crew have officially stomped into Woodbury territory, and this is bad news. Those woods are packed with deadly monsters, and it looks like one of the truly vicious ones is already stalking its next victim. She scans the group and knows without a doubt Harris's friends and those young knights can't survive what's about to hit them so. So she clamps her staff in her grip and finally decides it's time to step in, no more waiting. Makdi flashes this massive smirk, because the moment she's been waiting for is finally here. Her time to shine is now. The witch commands her to fire up her magic and save Harris, and Makdi beams, cheerfully promising her master she's on the job before. The top-tier mage literally flings herself out of the building, shouting that she's heading out. As she walks away, the witch lets out a heavy sigh, and can't help wondering why this girl never just uses a door like a normal person. Then she shakes it off because once everyone finally locks onto the same mission, they surge forward to smash the darkness lurking behind the kingdom and forge the world Harris has been dreaming of. Back at camp, Rome finally catches up, hauling an absurd mountain of luggage, and sheepishly apologizes to the whole crew for keeping them waiting. Victoria slings on her massive backpack and proudly tells the group she's got every supply and gathering tool ready to roll. Harris grins like, "That helps a lot." But as they finally settle in, Leisha snaps her eyes toward the dark tree line and calls Harris over, voice sharp with worry, telling him the forest feels wrong, especially. The moon hangs high in the sky, and the woods crawl with whispers from 1,000 unfamiliar voices slithering through the dark. Harris pauses for a heartbeat, then realization hits him hard. Those voices aren't random at all. They're the warning signs of a brand new magic herb growing right nearby. As they catch their breath, Victoria glances at the trees and admits that the idea of a monster-filled forest has her stomach in knots. But Harris is already running ahead in his mind, telling her that if they can truly track down a brand new herb, they'll be able to brew brand new kinds of potions. As the whole group pushes deeper through the brush, Victor can't stop replaying what happened earlier. He's stuck on that Woodbury estate mess, and he flat out says he still can't believe how it all went down, and you can tell he's still fuming, saying it's totally infuriating that anyone would label Harris a weed pharmacist or act like he's just raking in easy money, because to him, that's pure disrespect. Victoria cuts in as they stroll, pointing out that Lord Zykel doesn't have a great reputation with the people at all. Rome says that even with Lord Arnold as a brother-in-law shielding them, the guild is still keeping their eyes wide open because they're sure something shady could be brewing in the shadows. Jurek finally gets why they have to stay razor-sharp and ready to bolt at any second, because the truth is about to hit, seeing as those monsters in the dark aren't just lurking anymore. They shoot forward and lunge straight at you, teeth bared for the kill. Jurek rockets into the crowd with her daggers drawn, while Grasum swings his sword to carve a clear path around her, and after that, when the dust finally clears, Harris scans every fallen beast and admits he's just relieved the crew is there to deal with how packed that forest is. Victor suddenly plays the tough guy, telling Harris to walk away and trust him like the whole fight is nothing but a piece of cake. But Grasum cuts him off on the spot, slams his guard into place, and snarls, "Did you forget what you learned the other day?" Victor starts begging him to shut up, but Grasum blurts it out anyway, saying Victor got caught completely naked last time, right? As Victoria screams for Harris to come over. Harris strides over to figure out what's going on, and there he sees Leisha hopping around like crazy in front of a brand new patch of plants. He drops to his knees, staring in disbelief because it's not some random plant at all. It's a magic herb he's never once seen in his entire life. Victoria pushes the pace even harder, calling out more and more rare treasures hiding in the nearby brush. Harris's bag is packed so tight it's basically bulging, stuffed with a wild mix of plants and herbs they've hauled in so far. Harris leans over the pile with a huge grin, bragging that he's unearthed tons of new magic herb types and that this haul is way bigger than he ever dreamed. Victoria tilts her head toward the dense treetops and points out that even magic herbs still crave sunlight to grow because they're not so different from normal plants, except here, everything's different. It's the proof this stretch of forest is soaking the ground with insane amounts of mana. Grassam lights up and tells Harris he's glad to see him finally snag something useful instead of just flowers, and Harris nods along as they keep walking. Harris admits he's really hoping they'll track down those magic grass flowers just as fast as they found the other herbs, which is where things start too. Victoria pauses for a heartbeat, racking her brain for the exact name of the flower he's hunting. She can't stop thinking, why would that sacred temple, the same one that tried to wipe out those demonic herbs, go hunting for these flowers too? What shady scheme are they cooking up until Harris cuts in with, maybe the... Turns out their old boss finally snapped out of it, dropped the hate, and somehow found real kindness in his heart. The whole crew freezes in pure confusion, staring like they've just heard nonsense until Victoria grins and bails them out, swearing it was all just a joke. Jurek's face turns grim as she admits the corruption they're up against won't be some quick fix, and Grassam jumps in, backing her up so Harris says they should just keep rolling, keep exploring for now, while Victoria grins and adds that she's genuinely pumped to keep working with the crew as they push deeper. Suddenly, Harris halts and snaps, asking if the air smells like magic weeds again, but Leisha just shakes her head, hard, like nope. She tilts her head into the dense canopy, eyes wide with worry, and blurts out that something feels terribly wrong about this place. She can't shake the feeling, and then, right at her feet, those creepy dark roots start twitching like they're alive. Victoria spots danger charging in, shrieks for everyone to duck, and right on cue a massive creature slams down on them. Grassam and Jurek swing like blades from a storm, carving the wooden monster to splinters as it hangs in midair. Grassam loomed over the scraps and suddenly realized he'd been getting a treat this whole time. While Jurek couldn't shake the shock of it, how on earth would a monster like that even be lurking in this forest? The guys start to move, but Jurek slams his hand up and yells, "Wait just a second," because she scans the area and instantly knows this isn't where treants should be. Something feels seriously wrong. Jurek points out the twist. If that thing is really a treat, why is Victoria acting like it's a problem when they're literally in the middle of a forest? But Jurek pulls the truth out of the shadows. Treants aren't helpers at all. They're monsters that only crawl into places soaked in thick, brutal miasma. Grassam starts laying out what it really means for them, while Victoria cuts in and demands to know what he's actually saying. Out of nowhere, something slams into the grass and hits him hard, yanking a sharp, painful grunt from his throat as he realizes the attacker is a wraith, and 3 hooded skeletal spirits claw their way into reality out of thin air. Grassam crumples to one knee from the hit. Harris rockets over to check him, and the girls instantly draw their weapons as Jurek barrels in at full speed, intercepting the spirits before they can wreck the group any further. Grassam clenches his jaw and growls that, just like the treants, these specters don't belong anywhere near this stretch of woods. Victoria stares as they keep marching in, and a cold dread crawls in. What if someone's forcing all these monsters to line up, and it's about to ruin everything? Party back to back as undead spirits swarm in from every direction, tightening the trap. Jurek keeps her daggers up, saying the ghost attacks are easy to spot, but they're missing the one thing to end them for good. Grassam snaps, grinding his teeth as he admits the truth. They don't have a final blow, and when inspectors lock themselves into certain areas, they usually roll in mages or clerics to cast magic and purify the place. Jurek glances back and realizes they're in deep trouble without that kind of backup, so Harris just locks eyes on the spirits, muttering purification and magic over and over, because man, does he wish someone with those exact skills was right there, right now. A bright, cheerful voice chirps, "Were you calling for me?" while the entire crew is still trapped in the thick of those hooded skeletons. Then one of the wraiths gets blasted into nothing by a massive wave of energy. An instant burst of blinding light erupts, catching the whole party off guard. And Harris whips his head over to spot Macdi right there. Staff in hand, he knows her the second he sees her, but she's not just hanging around. She strikes a pose like a warning shot, lets everyone see she's not done, and flashes this massive grin as she tells them that after her first fire spell, she's about to wow them with a few more moves, then she kicks into high gear. He cast Ice Storm, whipped up a razor-edged wind blade right after, and the blasts tore through the skeletons, one by one, and then she slams it shut with a bone-jarring earth hammer spell, smashing whatever's left of the monsters into nothing. The explosion erupts, and when the dust finally settles, everyone just freezes. Harris and the others are utterly stunned by the sheer power they just witnessed. Macdi throws out a huge dramatic pose and calls herself the beautiful wizard who showed up just in time to save Harris. But the rest of the group just stands there, staring at her like she's completely bizarre. She starts blushing and blurts that Harris should say something because she feels like a total loser just standing there, so he quickly thanks her for saving their lives. Victoria thanks her, then asks if she knows Harris, and that simple question instantly flips Yurek's thoughts to just how close those two really are. Harris just smirks, tells them she's basically his future wife, and the whole group totally freaks out. Every single one of them erupts in screams, all at once, pure shock hitting like thunder. He cracks up and tells her, straight-faced, that she's just a kid from one of his old patients, yet Mackie won't stop pushing back, insisting he's dead serious. Harris leans in and tells you his old patient was Amber the Witch of the Mines, and she'd refused to take a student for years until she spotted Macdi's raw potential. He admits he'd seen her training back in the day, but even he never imagined she'd level up this hard. Yurek tells her she's heard wild rumors that the witch was taking on an apprentice, but she never once thought the rumor would be the girl standing there, right in front of her. The knights are on high alert, and Victor points out that even the royal guard has to keep the witch under non-stop watch. Victoria looked absolutely rattled as she whispered that this woman's got a wild habit. When boredom hits, she redraws the entire world map. Macdi can only give a nervous laugh about her master's brutal reputation because, yeah, it's all true. So there's nothing she can say to defend him. Harris demands to know why this big-shot witch's student is out here so far from everything. And Macdi just giggles, then tells him, "My master said Harris is out in the forest." She glances at the monsters and says, "Those local beasts are no big deal for us normally." But when she yanks her hat down, she snaps at the group because the real monster is finally on the move. May CD slams on the brakes and blurts out, "Tell me, has anyone noticed we're being watched right now up there?" In the treetops, a mysterious cat-eared girl flicks her tongue and admits straight-faced that Macdi is every bit as sharp as she remembered. She tilts her head down and smirks like, "No way, I never, ever thought Macdi would be the one to show up." While the others scramble to track where those eyes are coming from, Macdi snaps back at the trees, warning the hidden girl that she isn't nearly as invisible as she thinks. Macdi jabs her hand toward the trees and screams that she's found the Watcher. Then she fires a blast that slams into the ground as she and Harris dig in, refusing to budge while debris whips through the air. Perched high on the branch, a shadowy silhouette just smirks as if her plan to flush her out is a joke. It's this girl with cat ears grinning at him and going, "Guess I couldn't fool Macdi after all." Victoria asks, "Do you two know each other?" And Macdi snaps back that this is the troublemaker. Then she reminds everyone she warned them about a girl named Shamanina. Macdi fires back, calling Shamanina a criminal who weaponizes forbidden summoning magic, which is exactly why it all makes sense. Victoria and the knight finally got it. Every monster they battled earlier wasn't out there at all. It was Victoria pulling the strings. Macdi glances away for a split second, admits the whole disaster is just a family scandal, but but she snaps her staff back toward Shamanina and charges like, "You're only here to settle a grudge." Shamanina shrugs it off with a smirk and tells them it's all good because she already snagged the flower she came for. Harris snapped his gaze up at Shaman Inna, and in that moment, he realized she might actually be holding the rare demon grass flower. Shamanina just holds it up, breezing in that the plants are exactly where the notebook promised, and Harris is absolutely stunned. When he finally sees it, she's holding his father's long-lost research journal right there in her hands. He just freezes in full-on shock, jaw dropping as he demands to know how a criminal like her could possibly know anything about Professor Gustav's work. But Shamanina just smirks, shuts him down with a sharp, "You've talked enough," and says her only job left is to rope the whole group in. She lunges forward as she swears she'll finish every last one, and then, out of nowhere, a towering wall of thick fog surges in and swallows the forest floor whole, trapping everyone inside before they can even blink. Harris snatches Leisha and yanks her into his arms, eyes narrowed as the white mist swallows everything. He shouts that he can't see a damn thing, but Yurek spots a flicker in the haze and erupts in a scream. "Everyone, down!" She whips her blade around at the last second, slicing the monster's attack before it can shred them. Yurek whips her blade through the air, hacking back invisible threats, while Harris and Leisha huddles close together, terrified. Somewhere in the haze, the shaman lets out a laugh and tells the group she only hopes they enjoy being the snacks for the monsters she's just left them with. Harris starts to panic and blurts out to Makti, "Can't you just use your wind magic to blast this fog away?" But Makti thrusts her hand toward him as her magic sputters away. Then she snaps, telling him the mist isn't random at all. It's packed with a spell that smashes mana apart. She makes him watch no matter what spell she casts. The second it slips from her hand, it just vanishes into thin air, meaning she can't just blast the whole area clean. And when she looks around, she realizes she's stuck in a really awful spot. Suddenly, a monster with glowing eyes rockets out of the white, and as Jurek screams that the beasts are somehow zeroing in on them, it lunges straight for their faces. Victoria keeps her eyes locked on the fight, wondering if the monsters have some secret animal radar that cuts right through the fog, but MacD instantly clocks how way too perfect it is, like every single beast has been dialed in on one specific person in their group. Jurek snaps to it, yells at Harris to dump whatever he's hiding in his pocket right now. Jurek whips his gaze to Harris and demands to know if the thing stuffed in his pocket is some kind of pass, and Makdi snatches the round charm and blurts out, "I knew you'd be hiding something like this." As Harris fights for balance in the chaos, he blurts out, "What the hell is even happening?" So MacD leans in for a closer look, and bam, the charm isn't just pretty, it's packed with attraction magic. Victoria realizes the monsters have stopped going so hard now that the charm is gone, and that's what makes. Harris starts questioning whether the Woodbury family is secretly working with the sanctuary to swipe the magic grass and the notebook. Yet no matter how hard he thinks, he can't pin down what they're really after. Makdi snaps him mid-sentence, yelling that they'll talk later, because right now they've got to cut through this mist and clear it before it gets worse. She scrambles for a new plan, because magic won't touch the fog then, out of nowhere. Leisha lifts the tiny owl and tells Harris that Nash insists he wants to deal with it himself. And the little bird rockets into the sky, hammering its wings with all its might to blast through the air. Harris points out that the owl's got wings, so it can whip up a wind even when magic is barely in the air. Even though Nash is pushing hard, Makti spots it. The mist is already creeping back in, fast, and they're gonna need something way more powerful than that right now before it swallows everything. MacD refuses to stay stuck, so he hunts for the one final move that will tip the whole fight in his favor. She shouts out to Harris, demanding to know if he's got that magic herb medicine he gave her master. And Harris fires back, asking if she means the stuff he handed Amber. And he yanks the bottle out, flashes it at her, and says he's got it, though he's honestly clueless about what she's about to do with it. Makdi leans in, swears it'll work, then calls for the win right now to pick it up. Suddenly, Nash blasts out a huge gust of air, smashing through the dark mist and carving a clear path in its wake. As the fog finally lifts, the forest suddenly opens up wide, and everyone stands there, stunned in the clean, clear air. MACD lifts an empty bottle, bursts into laughter, and brags that Harris's special beauty oil somehow turns into straight-up killer fuel. The entire crew just freezes, staring at her in shock because she actually slathers beauty oil and somehow turns the whole disaster around. Victoria snaps the pieces into place, her mind racing as she wonders, was that beauty oil the real reason Amber keeps showing up to visit Harris for house calls? Makdi just breaks into laughter, quoting her master and asking, "Tell me what in this world is more important than a girl's skin?" She even admits she got cursed flowers sprouting from her ears just for questioning it, and Victoria can't stand how annoying that is. Harris snaps everyone quiet, stares straight through the fog, and tells the group, "Hold up. What's coming next is the real thing, right on the other side." As the smoke clears, a pack of gigantic, terrifying monsters bursts in front of them, sealing off their path. MACD snaps to attention and yells that what they're facing now isn't even close to the weaklings they ran into earlier. It's a whole different beast. Yurek wastes zero time. He charges straight into the fight, ready to bet everything as he tests his luck against the new threats. Even the dead of night can't hide the truth it's admitting, loud and clear, that these monsters are going to be an absolute nightmare to take down. In the shadows, the hooded girl drags out a magic circle and summons something far worse to finish them off. From where she stands, Amber squints at the whole mess, tugs her hat down to the smallest size, and barks at someone, "You're a complete idiot." Makdi slams the brakes on the chaos, yelling at the whole crew to give her 1 single second of their time. Victor steps up, takes control of the line, tells her he'll handle it, and demands to know one thing: does she actually have a plan to get them out of this? Yurek stays on top of her opponent, blades flashing as she snaps that they'll get crushed if they don't move right now. So MacD starts glowing up while she's standing inside this massive magic circle. And she tells them she honestly appreciates how fast they caught on. She casually asks Harris whether he knows the different types of elemental magic, and it instantly makes him wonder why she's bringing it up out of nowhere. Harris rattles off the 4 elements: fire, water, wind, and earth like she's just been using them moments ago, trying to pin down what her real point is. But MacD just smirks at him and says, "Yeah, you're right," right up until he drops the bomb that those 4 are only half of what's really lurking out there. The entire group screeches to a stop, stares at her like she just said something impossible, and Harris blurts it back, "half," while everyone else tries to figure out what she's really getting at. As she surges with dark energy, she shouts that sure, there are 4 monotypes, but there's a whole other side too, the anti-mono. Victoria stares as the dark power swells in Matty's hands, her face tight with worry, and blurts out that it looks dangerous as hell. Makti bursts into laughter, absolutely wired, because she finally gets to put everything she learned from her master into action, and she clamps both hands together, pouring every ounce of that power in, and tells him she's smashing mana and anti-mana head-on right before the spell cuts off mid-sentence. She's lining up her ultimate trump card, and the moment the monsters clock what's coming, panic detonates because she's aiming that orb straight at them. It erupts with a blinding flash so massive it devours the entire battlefield in 1 instant. And when it's done, there's nothing left but a barren wasteland. Makti smirks like it's all part of the plan, while Harris and Victoria just freeze, utterly stunned by the total annihilation.